Good morning, everyone. We'll start the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I thought that woman should be committed. That's the person we look for financial advice.
All right, agenda. Do we have any additions or corrections to the agenda?
No.
Mr. Chair,
Yep.
I know during finance yesterday, there
Yep.
was some discussion about potentially pulling number 10 and number 12 just to provide this board and the public with some
Yep.
additional information. That was a
Yep,
suggestion.
we can do that now, or we
Pulling
can
them
do
off
that
the
at the
agenda?
consent agenda.
Just
Pulling them
for
from
some
the
addition-
consent.
Yeah, just to offer some additional information.
So we can,
And number 8.
and number 8, so we'll
Number 8.
pull number 8, number 10, and number 12 off the consent agenda. So Steve, let's move number 8 to under Steve, correct?
That might make the most sense.
Yep, and then,
Jim's here for,
and Jim will be here for highway,
For number 12,
yeah, but I don't know if Jim's on the,
nope, but he's here now.
okay, so let's,
you can put that on.
when we get to the consent agenda, we'll do it right away, Jim. So we'll do number 12 right away. And then number 10, we'll just put under Todd's, which is under the sheriff. Okay. Whew. Is there any other corrections or additions to the agenda?
I don't have anything.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Motion by Erica. We have a second.
Second.
Second by Barry. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion carries. All right, minutes from June 17th board meeting. Do we have any corrections or additions?
I only have one, and it's really just quite a silly one. And now I have to find it. Under number 4, there's an extra parentheses.
Peggy, by the way, I saw that too, so you know. I highlighted it.
That was all I had.
Does anybody else have any other corrections or additions?
So close, Peggy.
Number 2 under.
Oh, nope, never mind.
So I have one. Number 2 on page 2 of 3. Under county administrator, number 2. Says motion and second to authorize the county administrator to sign and negotiate the final lease agreement for storage space for the sheriff's department. Why did I highlight that?
I'm not sure.
Should we state where that building is at? Or who is it from, the city, city owned, I don't know. That's why I highlighted it. Does it matter?
Matters to you.
It doesn't,
Clarification if someone reads it.
yeah. If someone reads that, they don't know what it's for.
Yeah, they
Maybe,
would have to, yeah,
Yeah,
that's true.
that's kind of what I looked at.
Do you just want to put from the city?
Yeah,
From the city.
or renting a storage facility from the city of Detroit Lakes. And then number 3, on page 3 of 3, under highway number 3, we had a motion to, for overweight annual permits in compliance with Minnesota statute. Do we want to be more specific on what roads they're for? Because we can't do it on interstates and state highways, right? Just on county roads. So maybe we should say just county. Should we just put county roads
We're
in?
the authority for county roads, we're not the authority for the state.
No, but if I was a person that didn't, yeah, I guess, we know that, but maybe someone reads this, they don't know that.
So behind permits, maybe.
Yeah. It's probably not a big deal. All right, that's all I have, so I'll stop now. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the June 17th meeting.
I'll make the motion.
Do we have a second? Motion by Phil, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Erica. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion carries. All right, minutes from the Board of Appeals meeting on June 16th. Do we have any additions or corrections? I have one, of course. Number 5. All of the other motions state that there was no, that we concurred with the no change or we made the change. And number 5 doesn't say, it just says motion by Henriksen and second by Jepson, motion carried. Doesn't say what we motioned.
The local assessor reviewed and advised
Yeah,
the change.
yeah, I know, but it doesn't say we followed that.
Mm,
It just says we made a motion.
Okay.
So I think we should put in there that
I
it,
think that's how they all read, don't?
no, the next one says, the next one that says, like number 1, I don't know, there's another one, there's 2 more in there, so will follow the recommendation of the,
Oh, yep,
Yeah.
second by Hanson to concur
Yeah.
with the assessor recommendation.
Yeah.
So you just want it
just to
consistent?
concur with the assessor's
To
recommendation.
concur, okay.
The local assessors, not,
Not our
Do
county.
we want that for all of them that don't have it?
that's the only one I saw.
There's a few.
There's-
I thought.
Number 3 doesn't?
Number
What?
7
No, but see,
doesn't.
number 3, it says that we reviewed and decided to decrease it by 84,000. So then a motion, that, it states it in there.
What you were approving.
Yeah. It doesn't state it in the number 3 or number 5. It
Well,
doesn't. Yeah. Maybe it's not a big deal.
Peggy will take a look and try to make. it
Yeah,
consistent.
we'll do that. Do we have a motion and to approve the minutes from June 16th and allow Peggy to make any corrections that make them consistent?
So moved.
I will second, but I think the wordage is, I think she just,
To make the language consistent on motions.
Yeah.
I don't know if we want that in the motion,
Okay.
with the added changes and
Okay.
I don't think you want that in the stated in the
Is
motion.
that good with both of you?
Yep.
All right. So we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. All right, consent agenda, we pulled number 8, number 10, and number 12. Is there any other issues that we would like to remove from the consent agenda? All right, so I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
So motion by Barry, second by Phil. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion carries. All right, commissioners, open forum. Nate, is there anybody on the list? Okay. All right, let's move on to reports and correspondence.
Excuse me,
Oh.
Mr. Chair, we were going to do highway maybe first?
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, Jim. Hey, I apologize. Yeah, it's Jim. Please come up. Thank you.
Morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Morning, Jim.
I'm here this morning to get approval or ratification on a change order in our Lake Park project. I know at the last board meeting, we discussed the changes we would like to do on that project or prefer to do, changing the mill and overlay work in the downtown area north up to County Road 9 from a mill and overlay to a full reclaim to get rid of all those big cracks in that. We've gone through negotiations with the contractor and come to agreement on a price of approximately $200,000, a little over $200,000. So we were able to save a little bit of money from their initial offer, and we're wanted to bring this forward to you for ratification since we just got final approval yesterday from MnDOT on the change order. So we'd like to move forward with that work now.
Mr. Chair, Jim, so when we, in subcommittee, we had talked about, that number seemed a lot bigger. In subcommittee, it was like 900 or something we were going to save, or we were going to do.
No.
No, it was 2.
No, the additional work was approximately about, when we first started working with them, was about $250,000 for the extra work. And now.
That was maybe the total.
The total additional work.
Okay, so this will be in in addition to what the contract was. Is
Yeah,
that, is that?
Correct, yeah,
is
we're
that-
just adding $200,000 to the contract.
I'm for doing the full depth
Yeah.
rethink, but as far as budgeting for this, is this fit into the budget? I mean, we approved this today.
Correct.
That
Yep,
will be budgeted for,
we will just spend more of our state aid dollars, which we have, yes.
which we have.
Yes,
Yes.
Okay.
yes.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, that state aid money, it's hard to wrap your hands around the funding
is.
of
I'm-
highway. I mean, it's because that, you can ebb and flow that and there's so much available and you can forward it or,
All right, I will make the motion to approve the change order for County State Highway 7 construction and County State Highway 80
Second.
construction.
All right, so we have a motion by Phil, second by Barry. Do we have any further discussion?
just an update, how's the project going?
It's going okay. It's, right now, it's kind of, I guess disruptive with the sidewalk being removed. We did have a one little surprise, when we removed sidewalk in front of one of the buildings, there was one of those underground basements underneath the sidewalk.
Oh, really?
I know we had some issues
I know.
here in
Yeah.
downtown, but we're working with the property owner, and I think they're looking at maybe removing that building, and we'll fill it in. If they don't decide to do that, then we'll bridge it and put the sidewalk back in.
That was, I mean, Phil, if you want, that was an interesting project when we did Washington, because
Yeah.
the buildings had basements under.
Under the street, under the
It was, I mean, we went and looked at them, that was neat. That history of the city it was really neat. I'm
Yeah.
surprised that there was one, was it one of the commercial buildings originally, or?
Well, I suppose it was at one time. Right now, it's vacant and,
Okay.
yeah.
I got the town tore up. You can't get it. You go into the bank, you can't, you gotta do a U-turn at the drive-through. I went through all the parking lots. You can't get out of there.
Yeah.
But sidewalk looks good. But
They're early moving though. I
Yeah.
mean, when they go
Yeah.
to town there, they like to get it done.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion carries. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
Jim, just one more thing. The trail in Frazee is coming along really nice. When is that projected to be done?
Yes,
See, it's
they-
blacktopped.
It's all they completed all the blacktop work yesterday. They had to finish up on the trailhead area down by Frazee yesterday, and they're doing shouldering, and the topsoil is going down. I think their goal is to try and get it all, that dirt work and graded and maybe seeded by this weekend.
Oh, wow.
There's still a few items like some ADA ramps that they will have to cut in at the street crossings, and then we have a fence at the trailhead, and there's a bench that we need to install down by the wetland area for a rest area down there. But yep, it should be done,
It's looking nice.
within a week, I would say.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Jim. All right, so now we'll move on to reports and correspondence.
I'll go 3 minutes. 18th at watershed meeting, we do have to get, the county has to get an MOU with the watershed. We need to work on that. We talked about that yesterday. Airport, there's going to be 2 projects that are going to be on here. We'll talk about them later. A taxi line rehab and an apron reconstruction. That should bring our commitments to an end there for what we committed back in 2017. These will happen in late 2025. The next one, the other apron construction won't happen until 2026. Also working on an arrival departure area. There's grants available for that, but that's down the road. Prairie Lakes budget meeting. I sat in on that. Very interesting to figure out revenue streams and stuff. They got about they're projecting a $9.9 million budget. That's us and 4 other counties. So they're projecting a small increase there. Law library. If you ever want to be on a committee where everything's great, get on law library. Not much going on there, but everything is sound. I went to they're proposing a power line. I went to an open house from Brainerd to Fargo. They call it Cuyuna, Minnesota to Maple River, North Dakota. It's Brainerd to Fargo, basically. Coming through, they may be coming through Detroit Lake. So I picked up some information if you're interested in it. But that will be on our agenda. And we talked about yesterday about, solar panels, all that ordinance stuff. I don't know if this fits into that or not.
It will, because I think, as I stated yesterday, I have land there, and I've gotten correspondence from, I think it was a solar company, but wind also. I think they want to be close to that transmission line. But now, depending upon the federal government, they're in their current bill, a lot of the incentives for solar and wind are not in there. So it might not be as attractive to do solar and wind in the short term then. So it might be a longer term, windows that we're looking at.
Yep, but just something to get out in front of. And this is the first public hearing. It'd be a few years before this even gets to the phase. But this is the routing corridor. It's Becker County. Well, the routing corridor from Brainerd to Fargo, basically. Transit. Interesting thing about transit is we have to have our budget in for transit by the 30th of June. So we had to have a meeting to pull that together. Up quite a bit. His budget that he submitted was up quite a bit because of salaries, mostly the increase in salaries. Planning and zoning, we had the tech panel about the gravel pit out by Cormorant, Pelican Lake area. Still working on that. Environmental, we're still working on that study for the transfer station. We got an architect. We're going to pay an architect a little bit of money to come up with the expansion of the transfer station so we can sort stuff better. Talked about trucks. We're getting on a rotation for our trucks so we can rotate them, have some value for them at the end, so we can resell them. We talked about a 6-year rotation. Trucks are about $400,000.
So we don't know, we did talk about it. What I want to see is what shape the truck is in at this. You know what we're doing now? We're running them till there's nothing left of them. But we're talking that we should start washing them and we are washing them more. That's probably the worst thing is the salt and the mag chloride is deteriorating. But
So-
we're going to look and try and get rid of them before there's nothing left of them. We don't know what that's
To me, I think the problem with trying to rotate that type of truck, there's such a limited market for, a front load, it's not like a vehicle where anyone, you can rotate vehicles or pickups and it makes sense financially, but I just don't know that it's going to make sense to rotate a 6-year rotation on a dump truck that has front load that it's so minimal. Not many people are looking for. And to be honest, that's your cheapest miles. I mean, you've depreciated it out, and I mean, it'd be a hard sell for me. You'd have to really show it on paper that this is the best deal, because I just don't think it will. A $400,000 piece of equipment, that's one you might just run into the ground. And
you might be right, Barry,
know.
because I want to see that
Yeah.
too, because we would
had discussed
we would have to be trading them in. We're not going to try and put them on marketplace or
Yeah. something.
And if there is a trade-in value if there is something we can, but you might be right. I thought about that too.
The thing is towards the end of their careers is when most of the maintenance, and the fixing and all that. So it's some of that, but we didn't, finally, we discussed it.
No, we were just talking that,
Yeah.
and yeah.
Because we got a 2021, a 2023, we're buying one this year, we'd have.
it's almost better though. You'd have to analyze whether it's better to buy a new one and keep running those old ones. And if they break down, then, have that old one as a spare. So I don't know.
And
So
that's
we're
what we were having trouble, but we had so much trouble with the last one with the emissions on it and the motor, and we had a lot of trouble with that one. But
Yeah, sometimes it's best to get rid of a lemon too.
well, and that's the problem with the emissions and DEF and all this stuff on there.
Can't
now.
you take that off?
Well, I'd like to. Probably not.
I finally pinned down to when our organics rollout will be August 1st is what he said. I was a little disappointed it wasn't sooner because most of the stuff is happening right now, but August 1st. And then our zoning ordinance update we had yesterday, we were all there. And I just wanted to, I became aware of our county employees. We've got a lot of county employees, or not a lot, we have some county employees that are working on the 4th of July, obviously the sheriff's guys, but there's some guys in solid waste that are too. I guess I didn't realize that, so I just want to thank them for doing, obviously they're paid overtime for that, but I guess I didn't realize that, so I just wanted to give a shout out to them and thank them for their commitment to the county. That's all I got.
All right, I'll go next. We had our benefits committee last week. A couple things we discussed, a program called, we saw a presentation on a program called Working Advantage, which is a employee discount benefit for employees on travel, shopping, and different movie tickets. It comes at no cost to the county, so it seems like it would be a great benefit for our employees. We also have decided to continue with dental for MetLife. We are going to be sending an RFQ out for a medical because we're looking at a possible 25% increase with our current provider. So we agreed to send out an RFQ to see if we can get any better rates for medical insurance. And then we also discussed the paid family medical leave. We compared, got some quotes for different private insurance, and MetLife did come in cheaper than the state at 0.79% versus 0.88% with some advantages such as MetLife has a 2-day response, and the state is saying that they have want at least up to a 60-day response.
Who knows if they'll have anything rolled out
Yep.
that can work even at the state.
So we did decide to go with MetLife. And we also scheduled the wellness fair for October 14th. That will be here before we know it. Also had EDA. We approved finally the RFP for Maple Avenue Apartment Rehab. So we're excited to get that
Crazy.
out and going. Yep. We also approved the child care grant. We had 4 applicants, and I don't have the exact amount. I think it was just under 33,000 for the four applicants. They all qualified, so they were all awarded
That's for the opioid? No.
the grant. Nope, this is that child care grant that Cody had got through deed, I think it was. And there will be another round of grants open back up because I believe we have 50,000 to award
Total?
Yep. So 18,000 left
17,483.
or whatever. Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
You're right again, Barry.
2 times in one day.
Couple other things, especially as we talked yesterday about the need for housing.
Yeah.
We have 2 housing programs. We have our public housing and our voucher program. And we have 22 people on the waiting list for the public housing homes. And we have 131 applicants on the waiting list for the voucher program. So just an idea of where our county is as far as housing.
But those those applicants, those are, they're not going to be buying homes. They need assistance, but they're not.
Correct. They're not going to be.
They're not looking to purchase.
They are not going to be.
So they're different.
Buying homes, but that would be one where like multifamily housing would be advantageous for us.
But they
to
may
maybe
already
have
be in
more.
housing.
Maybe.
The voucher.
I would
And
say,
they're seeking
I would say
vouchers.
for sure, I can't say for sure that all of these are homeless or don't have housing, but then one other thing we talked at length about at EDA is we have a request from somebody on our board to potentially bring accounting back in-house after our audit. There was just some recommendations that maybe we consider it just to.
Accounting?
Yep, our accounting for EDA for housing. Currently, MMCDC does all of our management and accounting. So that's something we're going to be looking into, especially as we move forward in the coming months with potentially our management contract.
When does the contract run out?
End of the year. Yep. But we hope to have we start negotiating in August.
Great.
So then I had Fair Board. Really, the meeting was just about finalizing the plans for the fair, which is July 23rd through the 26th. Any other key things for
I had
the Fair Board?
Did you discuss?
That's it. Yeah. Oh, the rodeo is the 23rd and 24th, and the derbies are the 25th and 26th.
Did you discuss the transit building?
Not at the last meeting. No.
Well, a little bit.
Did we
Just
discuss? Oh.
yeah, because we had the extension meeting right
Oh,
before.
yeah. We talked about extent. Yeah.
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 So there was a little bit of discussion. We told them potentially in September we would be bringing it back to the extension.
I think when we were at extension meeting, we discussed the possibility of extension moving to the fair or to the transit building. I think, and what we suggested is during the fair coming up, we should all tour that building and look at it and seeing and try to visualize how to make that, because they need more, it would be more office space needed. They need probably another office/meeting area, larger size meeting area for like master gardeners and, I mean, if that was
And the
converted.
4-H.
So a nice size meeting area in that. But I mean, I just go in there and try to visualize how that flow would work and seeing what size they need.
And the consensus, I wouldn't say the consensus of the board in talking with a couple of the board members, really what they want is just somebody in the building and paying for the utilities so that,
Yeah.
they're not necessarily to make money, but just,
We're paying for the utilities on it already, aren't we?
we are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, so I hadn't heard that before. So there's been talk about moving extension from 8th Street into the transit building. Is that possible with the grant funding? Didn't we get it? Didn't we get a grant for that? For transit?
The transit
For
building's
switching
been paid
the
off.
purpose.
It's paid off.
So it's our building, we can do
cleared
whatever
that
we
up.
want with.
No, it's our building, but Fair Board land.
It's
So
on
we
the Fair
have
Board
to
land.
coordinate
Yeah.
what goes,
We don't have any obligation from the grant fund.
not
Okay.
anymore.
All right.
We did,
It was disposed of and we paid for it.
Okay. Thank you.
so.
Okay, anything else on Fair Board?
No,
Okay, then we had extension, just a couple of things. We had the Master Gardener State Report. And one thing we also got a county impact report on the Minnesota Master Naturalist Program. And I think one thing to note, which I think is pretty cool, is in the Northwest region of, for 2024, which includes 18 counties, there was 4,536 service hours, so volunteer hours. And of those 4,536, 1,390 were in Becker County. So Becker County, that just goes to show how involved our people are in volunteering. So, and that equals 50,462 cash value for Becker County.
We never did get clarity though on, remember that stat that I pointed out? That was,
Yes. Was that for the Master Gardener? Or was
No,
that
that
for the Minnesota Naturalist?
it was for hours. It was,
Oh,
I questioned some of the hours when there was had to be a misprint in there, so.
maybe.
Because they had more hours for Becker County than the region. But
Oh, that's maybe on the
Yeah.
graph. Then the only other thing, 4-H enrollment is up. This time last year, there was 234, and right now there's 272 enrolled. And the Master Gardener's theme for the fair this year is grow your own groceries. Anything else for extension? If not, that's all I have.
Couple of meetings. So I went to Soil and Water after we left. I attended our zoning tech panel review. Phil and I did. So that was, we covered reviewing some of the things for the gravel pit. Then I ran over to Soil and Water and cut the end of that. And the big thing that came from that meeting is now the NRCS, the national programs, have to meet, when you have a contract that has NRCS money, grant money, and they have to meet the federal minimum wage or federal wage guidelines for those projects now. So these small contractors will come in, they have to pay their employees the federal wage. So they'll drive up the cost, so that grant funding will go not as far as it has in the past. So that was a pretty big topic. We had the Sheriff's Committee. I think most of everything's on the agenda. One thing we talked about was the warnings, and trying to coordinate like a tornado or a disaster warning within the buildings. And I think safety, we kicked that over to Safety Committee. So
To you, Richard.
Oh, good.
yeah, because we found out when they had the tornado warning, we don't really have any concrete
and then where
evacuation.
there's some procedures I think that we need to,
Yeah,
we got to have some drills so we know what to do. And then
Yeah.
we have to know when the public's, like a tornado warning, we're a fallout shelter, so we have to be open for them. And so sometimes people are going in, coming out, or fire, you want to go out, tornado, you want to come in. And so, and then at what stage shelter in place for employees, if tornado watch in the county or, so it's just reviewing some of those practices.
Yep, reviewing, and then Adam had a list of possible updates that could bring to the safety committee and see.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, I noticed on our website, we have a code red that we can sign up for to get.
Yes.
I just noticed that after the Bemidji storm, so I went on and signed up for it. I haven't got anything yet.
Yeah.
But are we all signed up for that, so we know?
Yeah. I think it's personal, but everyone has a choice. I've been signed up. We've had code red for how long? Yeah.
Okay, has it worked to?
Well,
I wouldn't say it does.
yeah,
There's been times where the storm is through before we got the alert, but those alerts don't come from this house. They come from the national alert.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
all right, okay.
So sometimes they're,
and then we have another alert system, don't we? But that seems to work, but, also was that extension also. And, Lakeland Mental Health is, we're positive, we're better than budget as far as margin. Of course, we're not meeting budget, but but we're profitable. There are some concerns in a couple programs in a couple facilities. Psychiatry is always a bad one, but DL psychiatry is leading the way to try to, in the region and for our Lakeland, that they actually have shown a profit. So they're trying to it's filling that schedule is what it is. Anyway, I think that's it. Again, thank you all for your condolences on the loss of my mother-in-law. It's been a tough month here and tough spring for our family. So thank you.
do you have anything else, Ray?
No, not right now.
Okay.
I had EDA with Erica, and I just want to add, we went out for prices on siding and windows on Maple Avenue. And we were looking at vinyl siding, which I didn't think we should put on a commercial building. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but
Yeah, we did make
we're gonna try and we're gonna get prices on,
3 different ones, I think we
Yeah.
have decided.
but I didn't feel like vinyl siding should be on that building. It's a nice looking building. It's got brick corners on it.
I think vinyl looks really nice. It just depends on the quality of it and the
Quality of
life expectancy. I mean,
And so it starts to look bad early, but
depends on the quality of it.
Depends on
I
the
mean,
quality.
but
I think we have steel on there currently,
there's
right?
steel on there
But the
right now.
paint is
But the paint's
can you just
peeling
paint
off
it?
of it. That's what I wanted to do, but they said that, they're right, so you'd have to strip all that paint off to do that. That would have been.
And then
Yeah.
probably acid wash it or something so that
Yeah.
the
Yeah, which
paint will stick.
I mean,
thought
if it's
that-
cheaper, if it's considerable cheaper though. I would look into it.
So they talked to people about painting it, nobody wanted to do it. That was our idea in the first
Yep.
place, was to paint it. I guess I don't know that much about, I know a little about paint. I do some painting, and I guess it is flaking off of there. You'd have to strip it all. And I
It
don't
is
know.
flaky.
Yeah, I think Karen said once it starts flaking that bad, it means that likely what it is that was some faulty siding to begin with. And you're never gonna get the paint to
So here's the flake.
stick on it
Yeah, I think.
good.
Yeah. I don't know, that's what I thought too, but I don't know. Because that was our first thing, was try and get it painted.
Can't you just put murals on it?
Well, we could do that too.
So is that going to be done this year?
We're hoping
We're
so.
hoping so.
I don't know. Our church I think we painted the church. We had some bad paint too at St. Peter's, and I think we painted that, but
Oh, really?
I can't. I mean, I would check into it and look a little deeper
Well,
into
and
people that.
probably we should. So MFCDC has painters, okay, because they do a lot of painting for us. And that's who they talk to about doing
I
it.
would talk to some commercial. I think their painters are small project painters, so this is out of their league.
Yeah, well.
I mean, this is big business. I mean, that's business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just-
Then one last thing, environmental, we're talking about education for recycling. So maybe we're gonna do something on the radio or something, gonna try and,
You gonna go on hodgepodge, Richard?
well, I don't think I'd do good on hodgepodge. But one of you guys can get on there.
I think we talked about this, if Richard and I both got on a hodgepodge, I think we would have a heck of a show.
Well, you guys both have a face for radio.
Yeah, and we have a sidekick comic here too.
Yeah. So you might start hearing more about recycling. We're gonna do a little bit of that, so that's all I got.
Okay, I'll be quick. Barry covered sheriff, Phil covered transit, DAC. So we are looking at, like we talked previously last month or last meeting about adding on. So we had a person from Hammers Construction come in. And what Hammers Construction does is they do everything. They're just not a construction company, not an architect company, not a management company. They do the whole process. So he was one of the architects for Hammers Construction. And we went through some plans that possibly, just kind of rough drawings of what our expansion could look like. He got some ideas from us. So it's good. We don't have a price yet. But once we get a better idea of what we kind of want, then we're going to get a price. And the DAC is just not big enough right now for all the clients that are there and all the activities going on there. Some things that are coming up. July 10th, there's a beanbag tournament in the park that is going to be run by the DAC. And there's whatever's going on in the park that day, I don't know, but there's a lot of people there, and they're going to have a beanbag tournament. They're going to give the first place prize is two nice beanbag boards that the high school made that have DAC logo on them. And
When is that?
July 10th, Thursday.
During Water Carnival?
Must be, yeah.
No, well, that'd be the very, very start of it.
The very start of it, yeah. I don't know if it's actually during Water Carnival. Water Carnival might not start till Friday.
Sure, maybe.
I'm not sure. I probably should have more information, but I don't. July 18th, Charlie's Bar is having a hog roast and beanbag tournament and a 50-50 raffle. And they are donating proceeds from the 50-50 raffle, or some of the proceeds from the 50-50 raffle to the DAC. So that's pretty cool. And then we just approved to purchase a new handicapped accessible van. We needed a new one. The old one was getting bad, and we also needed, we decided to get a van instead of a vehicle because they're a lot better, a lot easier. And we were going to lease it, and then we thought, why are we have enough money to spend on it? Why would we lease it? We'll just buy it. And that was good. And then just $57,000. A couple things that are really looking up for us from the first quarter. Our residential first quarter net revenue is up 47%. Now 47% sounds like a lot, which translates to $37,000. Our day services first quarter net revenue is up 28%, which is $57,000. And our employment first quarter net revenue is up 52%, which translates to $15,000. So the DAC is doing very well. We're getting more clients. We're getting more residential services. We're able to help more people. So hopefully we continue on that trend, and that's why we're looking at the expansion possibilities. Fair Board, Erica covered. I think that's it. Does anybody else have any other reports or correspondence?
Just a question, I think EDA was looking at, were you still looking at maybe renting out part of that, the EDA building over on 8th Street?
Yeah.
Because I mean, even if the extension was going to move, that's probably next year move, not maybe next winter at best. So
Yeah, we're still looking at it. We didn't mention, just completed a lease with the dive team just because they wanted to update some electrical. So we wanted to just get a lease. There's no charge for rent, but just to make sure that there's an agreement in place to know they're insured, everything's kosher. But
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Gibson, the dive team, is that separate from what our sheriff's department, is that our equipment? Is that county equipment? So they're subbing, the dive team subs?
Well, they store
their equipment.
Right?
Yep,
For no charge.
for no charge in the
Back garage area.
But that is not county equipment.
No,
Any
but it's
county
a
monies in there?
volunteer.
Todd?
Can't really say for sure if some of that equipment purchased through the sheriff's.
Some grant monies?
So did they got a boat too, Todd?
Yeah, they have they're a 501c3 organization, so they're their own entity, but obviously they work directly with
Yeah.
us in an emergency.
So I guess I'm, looking with the space study and stuff and renting I'm just, trying to fit all that in. I did not know that. All right.
All right, do we have any more reports or correspondence? All right, we have appointments. Anybody have any appointments? Anyone?
Nope.
All right, so we'll move on to our Tamarack National Wildlife Refuge update.
Morning.
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 Well, thanks for the opportunity to come and visit with you this morning. Remember, we met on June 10th with the Resources Committee?
Yep.
Natural Resources Committee, yeah. So Ed was asked to come back and maybe give a quick update on Tamarack Refuge. So I'm here to do that today, and then a little bit about an acquisition that we're working on. So, yeah, just, I guess, to do a quick update, Barry, like you asked about, just Tamarack National Wildlife Refuge is about 43,000 acres, just shy, about 20 miles north of town here. Established in 1938. Great place that provides habitat for wildlife, and there's wild places and, clean water habitat. So really, really great place for folks to recreate here locally. We're open to lots of forms of recreation like hunting and fishing and wildlife observation and photography and, mushrooming, hiking, skiing, all that kind of good stuff, as well as environmental education and interpretation. We don't do it alone, though. We do it with some partners, too. We have some good, important partners there. Our friends of Tamarack Refuge, some of you I'm sure are familiar with, they're really big into that environmental education and bring kids out to the refuge 3 times a year to see the refuge in different seasons. And about 1,000 kids a year coming out now, so from lots of different area schools. So they're a really great partner and really great to work with. Also, American Bird Conservancy helps us manage some of the successional habitat, young forest habitat that's really important for migratory birds, as well as resident like golden-winged warblers and woodcock, but also resident wildlife like white-tailed deer and rough grouse too. So great partner there. And then also the White Earth Nation, half the refuge is within the boundaries of the White Earth Reservation, and we've worked with them for decades on different resource-related issues, but formalized some of those relationships now through a recent MOU that we signed just a little over a year ago, 13 months ago. We've signed an MOU that addresses things like permitting and access for traditional activities and sort of formalizing our communication a little bit too, and how we're going to work together. After that, on October 1st of last year, we signed a co-stewardship agreement with the tribe as well. And that just further solidifies our relationship related to natural resource planning and management, as well as trying to incorporate some cultural components into our interpretation that we do on the refuge, and some volunteer opportunities for tribal members. We have a really big volunteer force out at the refuge. We've got over 100 volunteers, and they do an incredible amount of work. Local folks that really give a lot to our refuge. So we're also working on an annual funding agreement with the tribe right now too. That's a big process, kind of a big deal. We haven't done a lot of those nationwide. They signed one recently out west in Washington State with a tribe out there. So we're working on one right now, continuing with our negotiations that way and providing information back and forth. So keep your eye on that one. I guess some of this has been in the papers. You've probably seen some of that.
They're gonna start funding projects, or?
Yeah, so the AFA, the Annual Funding Agreement, basically through a certain law, the Indian Self-Determination Education Assistance Act, tribes that have a geographical or cultural connection to a federal operation, certainly that applies here at Tamarack Refuge, can apply for the opportunity to help us with some of that work and then be compensated for it. So that's where the funding comes in.
So they would be compensated?
Yes. So like as an example, if they were really interested in, well, one thing they are really interested in is water management. So if they wanted to help us with water management, then they would provide the personnel to do that, and then they would be compensated through this funding agreement to do that work. So that's a quick thumbnail sketch on an AFA. Certainly,
I was hoping that have, like everyone's seen the new Excel Energy building's going to be renamed down in the cities. for the grant, what is it, the grand, that the tribe is funding bought the naming rights. So starting next
I
year.
think I saw something in the news on that. too.
That's-
This is different, for sure.
I was
Yeah.
hoping that we'd be getting money this way.
Yeah, this money will come through the Department of Interior and through our agency as well, so we'll have to find that money to do that. But we'll just have to determine what the scope of that is. And again, they're an annual funding agreement. Often they're for a year or two,
Right.
sometimes as many as 5, and you sort of have to determine what the tribe's interest and capacity is to do that kind of work, and then hammer that out. So
Okay.
that's one thing we're working on right now with the tribe, one of our partners. So any other questions on refuge background stuff?
You know, you said you had 100 volunteers. I mean, what 100, I was under there saying the 100 volunteers come out and do things, what, make trails or what?
Sure, they
Or
do a
just the
variety.
educational component?
Yeah, variety. So big time on environmental education. They really help out a lot with that, but also like our maintenance activities, like say maintaining trails and our grounds, that sort of thing. So they'll help with events that we have, help staff events and that sort of thing.
Right.
And yeah, lots of really good
Okay.
stuff.
I think the
Thanks.
gift center too, isn't that staffed by volunteers?
The which, I'm
The
sorry. Barry.
gift, the gift.
Oh, yeah, the nature store
Gift
that's
shop.
inside our visitor center, yeah, that has to be staffed. We can't handle the money on something like that. So they operate and maintain that through their volunteers, many of them associated with the Friends of Tamarack Refuge, yeah. So lots of great local help by,
Yeah, we were just, Erica just brought the numbers from extension, the volunteer hours through Master Gardeners, and I know I'm on the library board and with Lake AC, and the volunteer hours in Becker County, it's just amazing. I mean, we just have such a giving community. It's
really is. I was amazed. When I first got here a little over 6 years ago, I told our staff, I'm like, I want to meet every volunteer because it's so great. I figured there was like a dozen, and the other places. Well, that's going to take a while, Kent. There's over 100. I was like, oh, okay, a whole different scale. But yeah, so it's really great, and I too am impressed by the sense of community that this area has, and that folks want to give on something like that. So. Yeah, so the other, I guess the big reason why we're here, the other thing we're working on, or one of the things we're working on is trying to acquire a parcel of property. So and I brought this material to our earlier meeting. I don't know if some of that got shared, the maps and that stuff. Well, okay, good.
Yep.
So we have an isolated tract on the east side of the refuge. This shaped sort of like a backwards L, about 160 acres that we don't have good access to. It's surrounded by private land.
Peggy, can you?
And so we've been interested, oh yeah, there we go. We've been interested for many years to try and maybe Mitch is pulling this up or.
I've got different.
Okay.
That's the right one.
Yep, if you see right there.
Oh, yeah.
On the left, what we see the left-hand side there.
You lost it.
All right, there we go.
There's the piece.
Yeah, so the parcel we own is green, that backwards L, and then to gain access, and you can see how the North Country Trail runs through it there too, and it runs through that private land that is currently owned by the Rogstad family. Just even with that eastern boundary of the parcel that we have over to 400th Avenue.
This is the
Yep, right there, exactly right. We'd like to acquire that piece to a couple different things, I guess. Get access to that isolated parcel that we have, that's really important, but then also secure access for the North Country Trail, which receives many visitors. There's about, just a little under 15 miles of trail that run through the refuge, and then, of course, much more through the rest of the county. We get a lot of visits through there, so it'd be great to secure that access, and then provide opportunity for the public, additional opportunity for the public to hunt there and to bird watch and gather mushrooms, the sort of things that are compatible uses on the refuge. So there's no lakes, so we can't do fishing, but other than that, all the activities that are allowed on the refuge would be allowed on this parcel as well. There you go, that's a good overview, yeah.
And I think I have another one.
Yeah. So we're working through the process here and getting a survey done, all the different things we need to do to acquire the parcel. But this is pretty unique for us. Like, we don't do a lot of this. We're not out acquiring a lot of property, at all, really. So this is just a unique opportunity. I wanted to come to the county and hopefully get your support on something like this that provides an opportunity to the public and again.
Where does the funding come from?
Money comes through the Land and Water Conservation Fund, which is a fund that the monies come from, like oil royalties and that sort of thing that the Department of Interior does. And Luke will correct me if I get any of this wrong, but.
You can bring, if
Yeah.
you want to bring them up and.
Yeah, come up here.
Just introduce yourself and
Luke,
Yep.
Alicia, if you want to come up and speak too.
Yes. we want to,
Luke Anderson is with our Realty Division down in Fergus Falls.
And Luke?
Alicia Haken is my assistant there at the refuge.
Well, welcome.
yeah, welcome.
So that's where that money is coming from, correct?
Yes, and I believe it was fully funded, fully supported the Land and Water Conservation Fund, LWCF. When was it, about 5 years ago, something like that, where it was fully funded. And I believe more specifically, we'll be using rec access funding from the Land and Water Conservation Fund for this parcel.
Yeah, that's right. So as part of that process, we like, when we put that package in, and again, it's already received approval, that shouldn't be a problem, but it's nice to have a letter of support from the county just to show that we, coordinated with you and provided information on it and that it's supported by the local folks, so.
Mr. Chair, can you tell us about the North Country Trail runs through there? I know some other places where it is, but I didn't realize, you say you got 15 miles running through there?
Almost, about 14 and a half, 14.7, I think is what we listed as, yeah. That's that trail that goes,
Yeah.
it's a national recreational trail that goes from,
Yeah.
national scenic trail that goes from New York State all the way over to western North Dakota. And so we're lucky to have a good chunk of it run through the refuge. It's great. I walked every inch of it a couple of times. It's a great way to access the refuge, and they have volunteer crews that maintain it, that's actually administered through the Park Service that does these national trails, so.
On that trail, can you hunt off that when you're, like, during grouse season? Can you
Sure.
walk it and
Yep.
hunt? Okay.
You bet.
I think one of the questions that I asked during NRM is like, what payments are coming from what will the county receive for payments on that property?
So it's sort of in lieu of taxes, because it
Right.
comes off the tax rolls, right? So it's about 120 acres. We'll do the final survey obviously later, but lands that we acquire now are funded through the Refuge Revenue Sharing Program. So that's the way nearly all of the acres that are the rest of Tamarack National Wildlife Refuge provide funding to the county as well. So they have a formula that they can use on that. With the Refuge Revenue Sharing, we don't have a lot of revenue generating projects happening. We don't really plan to for this piece as well. So there's three ways you can do that. It's either 25% of the proceeds from the refuge, or I'm sorry, the revenue that's occurring, or 75 cents an acre, which doesn't add up to a whole lot, or 0.75% of the appraised value or the estimated value on it. So that's the method that would be used for this. However, the level that is funded at is determined by Congress, so it isn't necessarily 100%. We talked a little bit about that in our last meeting. So it's going to be less than that. It's probably hovering less than 25% is what Congress has approved recently. So it would be less money than you receive right now, certainly from regular taxes that the Rocksteads pay.
Mary, Mary looked at the tax, we looked at the tax roll, what is it, 2,800 or something like that annually for that parcel?
I looked for 25, I thought it said 1,396 is what I thought I saw for that property. And honestly, if you look, I ran a couple numbers this morning, just knowing I was coming. So I believe that currently they're funded at 22% of that 0.75% level. If you do that, that comes to a little less than $400. So that's about $400 less. Although now that I think about that parcel that the Rogsteads own is larger than 120 acres. So I'm probably off a little bit by that, but
I can pop it up right now and tell you what. Oh, do you have a parcel number on that, Mary?
Yeah, it's
That's right.
150-323-000.
what I don't have a way of figuring is how much money is
1,400.
generated by folks visiting the area as they come to enjoy the
1,396.
trail and
So, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Nelson, bring me up to speed here. So we get paid on this right now, so you're trying to figure out what we give up in taxes
Right.
to do this?
Right. So it's privately owned, so
Right.
the private citizen pays $1,396.25 payable. And if we receive,
400.
About $400.
so I'm just.
So you're trying to weigh out the benefit
Well,
to
I think you
the
just.
bigger community
Yeah.
as opposed to
I mean,
the
I
taxpayer.
don't
Yeah.
know if that's a make or break. Some people might be, but I think it's just part of the total.
Yeah.
rationale if you want to support it or not.
Do we get all that 1,300, so the regular tax, how much does the county get of that?
Yeah, some of that would be
Yeah, that's-
school and
Yeah.
township.
The county's share of that is $695. And
that
20 that was
400,
24
would that go right to the county then?
$878.25.
So you might be talking about a couple $100, it sounds like.
Yeah.
That come directly to the county?
878 was what goes to the county. 260 for the height of land. The township gets 267. The school district gets 1276 and 229. And Becker County EDA gets 424 or 764 next 25. So it's just something to be aware of, that there will be a very, very minor cost shift to the regular taxpayers. I mean, a few $100s,
Yep. So do we have,
depending upon the year.
so do we have a motion to approve 1H?
I'll make a motion to approve 1H.
So
I'll second.
motion by Eric, a second by Richard. Do we have any more discussion?
Mr. Chair, just one more. So it looks like this green area, can you pull up the map again, Peggy? I'm sorry. The green area on the other side, is that Tamarack too, or is that?
So
On the
just
left
to the
side of
west
map is
there?
the big-
Yeah,
Yeah, that's also
That's-
Tamarack
You go to the
National
next.
Wildlife Refuge, yes.
okay, so that's,
It's just under
Yeah,
43,000
go to the
next.
acres for the
If you
refuge.
go to the next one here,
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm not
You're going,
this is where that, this is the land, so this is all Tamarack.
oh, really? Oh,
And then there's that
So
little
it
chunk right
connects,
there.
connects.
well, that really, yeah. Well, I see your connection thing now, so,
Yes,
okay, yeah, oh, that's a
trying to-
big deal.
we've been wanting to do that for a long time.
Yeah.
This will be like, okay, we got that done, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right,
And
so we have a,
Connects a lot of Becker County tax forward and state. I mean, that's a big,
Yeah, that's
big
right.
chunk up there, so.
so we have a motion and a second. Do we have any more discussion? Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank
much
you.
for coming.
Thank you for the
Appreciate it.
update too.
Yeah.
You know
Nice
what?
to meet you too.
Can you leave your card? I want to tour sometime. I get up there and around there, but I've never
Yeah.
really been.
Absolutely.
Just go to the building and they'll be there.
I'll bring a card in for you here in a moment.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time today, appreciate it.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
And then how will we see that resolution?
Carrie?
You will? Thank you, Peggy, appreciate it.
All right, let's move on to our county administrator's report, or county administrator. And we'll go to number 1, which is our MCIT Risk Management Board Report, presented by Jim. Hello.
Good morning, I have a handout here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, we got this one. This one.
Well, thanks for the opportunity to be on the agenda and talk with you all this morning. Just give you a, yeah, I got it. Actually.
Oh, we got it in our package.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
sounds good. Oh, okay, so.
Yeah, we do.
Heather doesn't.
Okay. Sorry. Anybody else?
No, no. It's good information.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, sorry.
So we get a chance to, I try to come out and see my counties every year, and we do this kind of a report every 2 years. Again, my name is Jim Carrolls. I'm a risk management consultant with MCIT. And what we're going to do is we'll go through this handout, but I'm not going to read it verbatim. I'm just going to touch on each section and highlight something from it, and then if there's any questions, just let me know. But again, we do this every 2 years. We do it on the heels of a November election. So I don't know if you have any new board members. All right, congratulations. So, and then part of it is just also to inform you about us and a refresher for everyone else too. So, again, we call ourselves your insurance company, or that's what we're known as, but technically we have a different formation that I'll talk about. In our risk insurance pool, we are a pool. So what's the difference between that and an insurance company? Well, in 1979, we were set up by the counties in the state of Minnesota for you. We're really, our main focus is to provide insurance to the counties. So I'm not out marketing, getting commissions, and we're not beholden to stockholders. We're basically a risk pool set up for the counties, so we try to align ourselves with your needs and ensure the needs that you have. On the front page, the upper left-hand corner, that box talks about that. Again, we have 81 of the 87 counties in our pool. The 6 that are not are the largest ones in Minnesota that are self-insured. So we have all of the counties that are right for us in our pool, such as yourself. So we have all the counties that we want to think align with what we want to do business with. Just so you know, we have the counties, but we also have possibly independent relationships with some of your other adjoining county folks, like the Historical Society or the Ag Society for the fairs and things like that. We'll probably have a separate relationship with and a separate partnership with as well, but all under the same umbrella. Also, we do have a fair number of small SWCDs that we allow in the pool as well that are within the counties. But the bulk of it, by and large, is the 81 counties, such as yourself. That's who we look to align with and provide insurance for. So, if you look at the bottom, members do their part. I do have a primary contact. It's Nicole Ecker. She's our primary contact. So a lot of our information will go to Nicole, and then she will disseminate it as she sees fit through the county to those folks that need the information. But I talk with anybody in the county. I've talked with board members. I've talked with county administrators. I've talked with county attorneys. But just so you know, I do have a primary contact, and that is Nicole Ecker. So the upper right-hand box talks about how commissioners can make a difference. We just ask that you stay involved with MCIT initiatives and give support where needed. Maybe also give support if there's a big claim, how you can maybe help staff navigate with us a large claim. And just so you know, also with this, MCIT is beholden to a board. Our board is made up of your cohorts. The board members that sit on our board are fellow commissioners from around the state of Minnesota. So they meet monthly, and so we are beholden to a board there as well. The next page and the next 3 pages kind of talks about our costs, and basically it's the bad news. And I can let you know our costs are going up. And the next 3 pages talks about that, but I can boil it down to one word for you, and it's inflation. The insurance industry is sort of the last to get wagged here by inflation. That's how we're set up, because we're historically taking information, and that's how we set our pricing and figure out our modeling. And so we're still going through a little bit of an inflation upheaval as the United States has. And then we'll just talk about what those pressures are and what those factors are. On page 2, the upper left-hand box talks about what's called our reinsurance rates. It starts off here with a complicated subject, but even us at MCIT, we buy insurance, and we buy insurance to sit on top of our large losses. So, for instance, it talks about how we cover the first $850,000 of a loss, and then if it goes past $850,000, we turn that into insurance for them to cover. So we don't blow our whole budget on a massive loss. But the problem is reinsurance comes globally from a global market, and those premiums have been skyrocketing. Some folks see them triple, double. For us, for instance, in the last 2 years, we've seen our premiums go up 50%, which is a cost driver for us. And so that's unfortunate. But to help offset some of that, just so you know, in 2025 here, we decided to raise our deductible, if you will. So instead of covering the first $850,000 of a loss, we're going to cover the first $1 million and get a premium offset for doing that, with hopes that obviously we don't incur enough losses where we go above the $850,000 before the million to erode that premium offset that we elected to take. And so far, here we are, July 1, and we haven't had a reinsurance claim yet, so we're doing well, but it just remains to be seen, yeah. Hopefully it continues, right? So, exactly. Then we talk about, what specifically we're seeing within the pool. If you take a look at the bottom there, it talks about our property values, and they continue to climb. If, for instance, this chart shows in 2021, the pool had $6.6 billion worth of county properties in our portfolio. In 2025, that's now $9.2 billion, almost a 40% increase of like $2.6 billion. That's a significant jump. Some of it is new construction. Counties build a new jail or a new highway garage. But there you're talking tens to hundreds of millions over all that. A $2.6 billion is basically the inflationary increase. We're seeing property values go up, and then we have to cover that. You probably see it on your personal property, how it's been going up, which is a good thing. It's better than the alternative. And that's what we're seeing here with all of our property in the portfolio. But the problem is we have to insure those. We have to insure that increase. So if you take a look at the upper right-hand corner of the other page, the third page, if you will, the left side of it talks about our property liability and workers' compensation rates. When I talk about inflation drivers, what am I talking about specifically? If you look at your property and their liability, it's the cost to pay those claims. The claims to repair a building, all the building materials have gone up in the last couple of years. The wages to pay folks to repair those buildings have gone up. The cost to repair autos, again, the materials for that to replace autos if they're totaled, buildings that are totaled, obviously. So it's that, and as well as even the workers' compensation. We cover your workers' compensation, which is if a county employee gets injured on the job, we cover their medical and their lost wages if they're on work comp for that. And so all the medical costs have gone up. The wages have gone up to keep up with inflation, and that's covered under work comp. So those are really the major cost drivers that you see that are going up inflationary wise. Good news is, I guess, on the right of that, we do still pay out a dividend, and you see your dividend number there. I'm happy to do that. So again, how we're constructed is we're a nonprofit, we're a public entity. So we take in your contributions, or what you know as premiums, take in your premiums, we pay for claims, pay for losses, pay for our expenses, and then if there's money left over, we give it back to you. And so that's how you generate your dividend, and that's how you get that. So since 1979, we've always given a dividend. We've remained in the black. We've never gone in the red, which is a good thing, and we want that to continue. And as a reminder, I'm supposed to give you an odd sort of philosophy. If we were really doing our job right, your dividend would be closer to zero than higher, because that only means we forecasted correctly what to charge you. We forecasted correctly how much we were going to pay out in claims and reserves and things like that. But obviously, we'd rather give you a dividend than an alternative. So anyways, that's how the dividend is generated there. If you look at the bottom of the page, we talk about cyber. So as part of your offerings that you buy into, we do provide you cyber coverage. And cyber is...
Hey, Brian, give him a copy of that. Yeah. Our press likes to... Nate's with the paper, so...
No problem, yeah.
I got a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just back up though. And I know I think we've received a dividend every year. Is there in the process a way to collect more if you have a really bad year? Is there ever been a thought of charging a second premium during the year? Or do you just hit into reserves?
Yeah, so I think I know what you're saying, but when we, as part of the pool, being a members of a pool, we don't experience rate you or a county on the property and liability side. So if you have a bad year,
I'm thinking the whole pool.
the whole pool, yeah. So if we have, if
If you
we're,
went, I'm just saying, if you tried to budget at zero, you would, there might be likely times when you'd have to second a
Yeah,
dividend. Or
almost
second-
like
a second premium.
reassess,
Yeah.
you know, give an assessment or something like that.
Say
Yeah.
we need another paper.
Yeah,
bill.
thankfully, if we did go into the red, we would have to do that, but we never have. So you're right. It's better to, you know, not be so close to zero, you know,
Yeah,
exactly.
We don't want a second bill.
Yeah, exactly. No, I understand. Right. Thanks.
Thanks.
We put cyber on here because it's a complicated subject that's obviously here to stay, and it's only getting more and more complicated to fight these bad actors out there that are trying to hack and trying to subvert your IT department and get access to data and things like that. You might say, well, our county is really a target, and yes, you know, obviously they want, you know, easier, more access to finances, and they're not necessarily, when they do go after a county, they're not necessarily going after your, let's say your driver license or your fees and things like that, that pot of money there. What they're going after is your HHS data that has the social security numbers and things like that. That's been our number one, by and large, frequent hitter that they're going after. And if you take a look, for instance, since we've been tracking this and looking at this, in 2023, we had a loss of $1.7 million total for claims and things like that affiliated with cyber claims and losses. And in 2023, we thought, wow, is this now the new norm? Because it's so new. We're trying to track. We're trying to get on top of it. We're trying to anticipate, is it going to be 1.7 million and start to go up now? And so, but lo and behold, in 2024, it was 567,000. You know, a $1.1 million decrease, which is awesome, and we know why, even better. And it's because counties have upped their preventative measures, their preventative IT measures, as well as expounded on IT training for their employees. So they don't click on red flag emails, they can watch for red flag emails or malicious links and things like that.
Well, we have an IT director that makes us do it as commissioners too. So, and then our administrator gives us nasty grams if we don't.
Yeah, we
So,
get those too at MCIT,
yeah.
exactly. And because that's awesome, you know, because it's working.
Yeah.
These bad actors right now that we're encountering are not even coming in through the back door yet. They're not going around your firewall or circumventing that. They're still coming in through the front door with employees clicking on these bad emails and bad links. That's the bulk of the way they're still getting in. So if it was shown that if we can increase those efforts, they're paying dividends for the pool. So that's awesome. And again, we'll hope the 2025 continues as it did in 2024. But again, we're going to track it and see the trends and see what remains to be seen. But hopefully it gets better than worse. But on the last page, it talks about Becker County specifically, your workers' compensation contribution. So the way your work comp gets calculated, it's through mathematician models and actuarialists, and they come up with this formula, if you will. And they come up with an experience modification rate, your experience mod rate. And if it's a 1.0, that's an average county, your size facing your risks. That's what you would see for a work comp rate. If it's less than 1.0, if it's like 0.9, that's 10% better, 0.8, 10%, 20% better. If it's higher than 1.0, 1.1, 1.2, it's 10% higher, 20% higher. So your goal is to stay at 1 or even lower. And most of our counties that are doing well are at a 1.0. Some that are the worst, you know, can get as high as 2.0. A few number are under 1.0. You guys are one of them. Congratulations. That's awesome. It's a great place to be at 0.89. It just means that your size, you're not putting people on work comp. You're putting them on at a lower rate, which is great for your county employees. Obviously, they're not getting crashed up and banged up and going on work comp higher than normal. So for that, it's worth, and it's a good thing for you and for the pool. So we thank you for your efforts there. From work comp, if you take a look at to the right of that, it talks about the claims we're seeing. Say the highest departments per claim dollars spent ratio. And the pool, what we see, the number one department was the sheriff and jails. And that's really not a secret. I mean, it's really because they face the most unique hazards that we have, and have, increased levels of those opportunities of being hurt and things like that. So, and they're 24/7. Same thing with the highway department underneath them. Again, unique hazards they can face. And again, they can also be 24/7. And you do have a county-run nursing home or medical facility, correct? Yep. So,
Nursing home, yep.
okay, that's the third most because again, unique hazards and things like that. And then it drops precipitously from there for the departments of what they see injury-wise as a work comp. And this is the pool as a total, but I would guess your Becker County, you probably see the same, probably sheriff's number one in your work comp and highway department are somewhere close to that. But again, pool wide, if you look to the bottom there, it takes a look at what we see for property and liability claims. Autos for us is always number one. It's because the pool insures for the county's 35,000 autos. And it's just a numbers thing. It's just a frequency. They have the most opportunity of being whacked, and they do. And then they're our number one damaged unit out there. So that gives you an idea of what we see for claims for our portfolios and for the pool. So, lastly, I just want to remind you that we really don't want to just pay claims and things like that. And we do want to help you through all your claims and potential litigation, of course, but we also want to be a resource. And so we are bolstering our website too for you to kind of be more of a one-stop shop. You can always call me, but again, we're trying to get our website to be a great source of information, all things MCIT, what we're doing for educational activities, trainings. We only come as far as St. Cloud, unfortunately, which isn't great, but it may be better still than going to St. Paul. If you can attend some of our trainings, we have from insurance to HR related and some other things sprinkled in. We also have different things that you guys participate in. We have a patrol that we offer for our sheriffs that they can hopefully glean information specifically for sheriffs. That's hopefully a valued resource. You're a member of the Minnesota Safety Council. We get you a membership there. Just a reminder too, I'm a risk management consultant. You also have a loss control consultant. He comes out of Duluth, but this is definitely his territory. His name is Nick Lindberg, and Nick can help you with employee safety needs, trainings, safety committees. If you want to gear something towards a safety initiative for a department, things like that. So that's another service that.
Does he do like a walkthrough or help? I mean, we were just discussing today, we're putting our like tornado warning systems and for the in-building, how to move about in county buildings. And because I think it's been a while since we've reviewed that process and employees don't recognize the alarms or, do we have an all call, and our IT department's working for all calls in different areas, but
Yeah.
someone that maybe we could reach out, the safety committee could reach out to coordinate some of that.
Yep, he can be a resource there for that. Exactly. Yep, exactly. So.
Mr. Chair, Jim, you said you come out every 2 years. Do you come out, when you come out, I assume you're physically here, do you physically view all of our insured properties?
I don't.
Buildings, things like that?
So it's a good question. Just so you know, you have a property schedule that you maintain as a county. It has all of your assets on it. And then every 5 years, we have a vendor that we have go out and will appraise all of your buildings 100,000 and greater, which is most of them, obviously. So every year we give you an inflationary factor built in for your property and contents. But then every 5 years they do boots on the ground, take pictures, actual appraisal to make sure that we're still in step and true up, make sure everything is good every 5 years that happens. So
Okay.
Does anybody else have any questions for Jim? Well, thank you very much.
All right, appreciate your time. Thank you. Thanks for.
Safe travels.
Look forward to a wonderful year with you. And if you guys can figure out how to get inflation down, then we can all get back on track. And but I think we're getting there. I think it's getting better. So
It'll flatten out sooner or later.
yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Jim.
Mr.
Thank-
Chair, you might want to go with the county attorney next.
Yeah, yeah. I would like to do that.
The,
Let's go to Brian.
it's the.
Your last item,
It's
your
the-
last item on your report, yeah. I was thinking the same thing. So we'll just move right up to.
Sorry, Heather.
Sorry, Heather. Number 6. So go ahead, Brian.
Good morning. Sheriff and I are here this morning. In the spring session of the legislature, there was a amended statute 241.021. And Todd, please jump in if I misstate something, but essentially what this statute mandates is that a jail continue to administer any medications an inmate was on prior to coming in, regardless of medical opinion. We are here today to ask the board to support Becker County joining a lawsuit that is seeking to declare this amendment unconstitutional. We would be joining with the Minnesota Sheriff's Association, numerous healthcare providers, as of now, Todd County, St. Louis County, and hopefully many more counties in the near future. The statute places the jail, the healthcare providers, and the sheriff in an impossible position. In my opinion, it's misguided. And Todd, what else do you want to add?
Yeah, the statute was revised to require that correctional facilities must administer to incarcerated persons the same medications they were prescribed prior to incarceration. And some of those medications are not needed. I'm not a doctor, but they're not needed in a controlled facility like.
Well, it's certainly, this came through Sheriff's
Yeah.
Committee, and it certainly is a person's medical needs change.
Yeah,
and especially when you change
absolutely.
their complete environment. You can imagine how that this, while it might have sounded good initially to somebody, it certainly has some consequences that are really
Yeah,
unnerving. I mean,
they could also be on some kind of
I'm sure MCIT would
prescribed medication. that
love to know
They
that,
now come off of, yeah.
yeah, and you have people on site reviewing this. I mean, healthcare looking at this. They certainly, legislature can't overturn your needs or your healthcare providers that are there. It's very alarming that they would even think this was a good, I mean, I think the thought behind it might have been good, but the boots on the ground is just not, it's not reasonable, so.
I'll just read a couple more thoughts here from our advanced correctional health care. The statute may ultimately prioritize compliance over patient-centered care. Pushing inappropriate medications could mask underlying health issues, delaying proper diagnosis and treatment. The statute could require giving medications that would cause an overdose or dangerous drug interaction. For example, a detainee who tests positive for fentanyl at intake may still be administered contraindicated prescription medications. Jails have a medication verification process to review outside medications and have them approved by a licensed medical provider to avoid such complications. So,
Just a little more background. This was given an effective date of July 1 because of it's tied to some funding. I don't quite understand all the interworkings, but as of yesterday, a stipulation was signed with the Minnesota Attorney General's office, who represents the Commissioner of Corrections, that they agreed to delay enforcement of this until at least August 1st. So that was a bit of good news.
Okay, that was, go ahead.
Mr. Chair, I'll move to approve Resolution 7251I.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Do we have any more further discussion?
I do just have a question. What do we believe the purpose of this statute is?
I imagine that there was somebody who needed medication and wasn't given it, and this was a, over.
Kind of a knee-jerk reaction?
knee-jerk.
I think, like I said,
That's my guess.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm just assuming that too, that
Yeah, I was.
there was there may be some entities that weren't delivering properly.
Sure.
Obviously, we believe we are, but they're trying to protect the rights of, but this is such an overstep. You can't you can't mandate something that you don't know what the needs are. I mean, it's just bizarre.
Overrides the independent judgment of the medical professionals that the jails and facilities utilize.
Yeah, and it's unclear about how long how long are we supposed to give the same because everyone's medicines change through time. So it's just I can't say enough strange things about that. And this didn't go through regular channels. This was added on at the
Kind of push through?
the last hour.
So
Gotcha.
It was not publicly discussed.
There was not publicly discussed, yes.
Okay.
just want to give a shout out to the county attorney and the sheriff. I mean, they kind of went above and beyond, looking at legislation, and I'm sure the sheriff's committee was a big part of that, or the sheriff's organization, the statewide organization, got on top of this. So that's where you see some of your values of your statewide organizations, AMC and the sheriffs. They monitor stuff and look at that. So thank you guys for bringing this forward to us, and hopefully we can get this
changed.
Well, amended or eliminated. I mean, because it will hinder the health of our inmates. It really will.
The lead counsel for the Sheriff's Association is a tremendous asset and mentor.
So pass our things on to those two.
Could we
All
vote that?
right, thanks. So we have a motion and a second. Do we have any more discussion? Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, all right, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, let's move to Heather Pender for Dancing Sky Area Agency on Aging. We have some exciting news today.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Morning.
Thank you for having me. So my name is Heather Pender. I'm the director with Dancing Sky Area Agency on Aging. We cover 21 counties in Northwest Minnesota. We ask every year for matching funds to be contributed to our budget, which we use to administer the Older Americans Act funds. So I'll share a little bit about the agency, how we work, some of the programs that we do, and then if there's questions or concerns, but feel free to stop me at any time. So Dancing Sky is one of 7 area agencies on aging throughout the state. We are the largest by landmass, so we cover 21 counties, as I said, in Northwest Minnesota. We operate under the auspices of the Regional Development Commission. So our brick and mortar office is out of Warren, and with that, the 7 counties that make up the Regional Development Commission are subject to tax levy, and then we ask our other 21 counties to submit matching funds for the Older Americans Act that we distribute throughout the 21 counties. So that's a little bit of why we ask for the funds, and so I'll kind of share about the programs and how we work with the programs. So an area agency on aging serves a unique purpose in the communities, and mainly I think of it in 2 separate kind of buckets of work, if that makes sense. So we're tasked with administering the Older Americans Act funds. So those are federal funds that come down through us, ACL, which is having some changes, but then through ACL to the Board on Aging, and then we as an area agency on aging receive a certain allocation based on a funding formula. That funding formula is called the intrastate funding formula. So in 2023, that was revised. I would say roughly every decade or so, the Board on Aging goes through and revises how those funds come down to each specific planning and service area. So that's a whole conversation in itself, but it's based on certain metrics, population density, different things like that. So that's how we get the funds. And then on our local level, we are charged with administering those out to local grantees. So that could be a variety of different entities. We have open RFPs and then, go through that granting process. So we have to fund legal services at a certain percentage. So that is Northwest Legal Services. So they cover all 21 counties plus 1 additional county. outside of our planning and service area. So I know locally here, they have staff that sit in the library and will help with various different, legal support for folks and offer guidance to older adults and, various other metrics that they have. So then we also fund senior nutrition. So that is in the form of congregate and home delivered meals. Some new things that have come up since COVID, curbside or pop-up meals where folks can kind of grab and go bulk type meals. One of the other specific titles is Title 3B, so that's homemaker, chore. 3E through the Act is caregiver and family support. So there again, access throughout to receive those additional supports. And then on the other side, we are tasked with carrying out the Senior Linkage Line Fund. So those funds are more, I think, kind of person to person, where our Federal Older Americans Act, we're granting those out, and then the local communities are using them to provide and carry out services. So the senior linkage line is kind of twofold. So it is phone-based. So caregivers or consumers can call in and be connected to any services or supports they need. We are known for our support with Medicare. So especially during Medicare open enrollment, caregivers or consumers can call in. We will help do a plan comparison, either lead them to their, local insurance agents that they want to enroll through, or, help with enrollments via the phone. We have a return to community service. So that return to community is helping folks that are either residing in a care facility that want to discharge back home. And when I say home, I'm using that broadly. That might be an assisted living, that might be home with family, could look like a lot of different situations. And then what we do is provide ongoing support for them for up to 5 years in the community. So we're doing a care plan, we're working through supports and services, and then doing that ongoing follow-up primarily by phone, and helping them. So if they have a change in status, we can, have you, done a medication management review, what are your next steps, or, maybe they've had a change in condition and need a wheelchair ramp. So who would you go to get that done, and those types of things. So similar to care coordination, and those services are free, but it's obviously state funded. And then with that, the thought process is these folks would be a bucket of people that would be private pay for services. And so although they don't pay anything to have the senior linkage line help, the thought process is we want to keep those folks safe and in the community to decrease the Medicaid spend down. So these are often a network of folks that don't have county support yet, might not be on any programs. And so we want to help them with coaching and support so they can utilize their funds to the best of their ability. And a lot of it is kind of that care coordination piece. And then the other part of the senior linkage line that's often behind the scenes work is that pre-admission screening before someone would enter a care facility. So there are statewide staff that are screening before someone enters a nursing home to make sure they meet level of care. So that's very, very quickly kind of our two different pockets or buckets of work that we do. We are a relatively small team. We have staff throughout the 21 counties. So locally here to Becker County, there's 4 of us, including myself. Strategically, we do have staff spread throughout the 21 counties that work home office settings. And some of that is just so we can serve the counties better. We believe that if you are in the county, you know, or community, you know a little bit better and can help network with providers and some of the work that you do. So I'll pause, and then I do want to highlight one other additional grant that we have and share a little bit of that work.
Does anybody have any questions?
Well, Mr. Chair, Heather, Dave's been teasing me now that I qualified for services, so I might have to get a contact information from him.
Sounds good.
Unfortunately. Well, fortunately, I'm growing older.
Yeah, well, Does anybody else have any questions or anything for Heather? Any comments? I just want to say that obviously I'm on that committee and they do an amazing job on her staff and I don't even know, I can't even get words out to say how good a job they do. So it's amazing. They work hard. They do a great job.
Thank
They
you.
do a lot of activities.
Well, it's good to have a resource because navigating,
Yeah.
especially as you age, navigating the programs is difficult. And the options that you have. I mean, as this whole board approaches that, Med and staff approaches that age where we qualify for. Well, we're all about the same. I mean,
I am way younger than all of you.
but to navigate those choices it's difficult to know.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
What you should do. I mean, so, thank you.
Yeah, of course. So occasionally we have the opportunity to apply for various different grants that are kind of outside the scope of kind of those two buckets that I categorize. And so last year we had the opportunity to apply for some funding through DHS that was in partnership with adult protection agencies. So we have piloted a program called WRAPS. So it's Wraparound Services for Adult Protection. And we partnered with any of the 21 counties that wanted to join us. We based it off of a Missouri model. So myself and a couple of the other area agency on aging directors kind of researched this Missouri model. We implemented a software system called Cumulus. So Cumulus is that secure software system where the county could make referrals to us. And then we had a pot of direct service funds, which is atypical, generally speaking, for Minnesota. Other states have their area agency on aging, might actually implement, adult protection and different things like that. So in Minnesota, we generally are, redistributing the funds out and not, partnering kind of that one-to-one. So this was a unique opportunity. We do have an extension with the funds through September 30th of this year. Becker County was one of the counties that joined in partnership with us. So thank you to the county for working with us and having all of the growing pains of a pilot program, because that's what happens is a lot of times you're building the ship as you're, trying to sail too. And so lots of learning opportunities, but really a great feeling at the end of the day to be able to administer funds directly to a person who is, in need for specific services. And so I think to date, Becker County's had 4 referrals, but roughly just close to $5,000 in, services. And like I said, directly to the person. So we've helped with home cleanouts, certain things like building a ramp, making something, handicap accessible so they can stay in their home and be safe. The funds are directly tied to their risk of maltreatment. So, we would want to make sure we're spending the funds on whatever kind of ties to that maltreatment. But we had 15 of the 21 counties in our area participate, and the software system, there again, another learning opportunity, but it was really nice to just connect back and forth with the counties and have that seamlessly come to us, and the APS worker would kind of, state what the need was, and then we would engage our team to get services set up and bills paid. So I do have a handout on that in here, kind of showcasing, and our year in review from 2024, which kind of showcases collectively all of the work that we do between the two teams. But I just want to say thank you for your support in contributing to the matching funds. And if anyone has any questions or concerns, I would love to answer anything I can today, but I'm also available anytime to continue conversations or grow any partnerships and work.
I don't have any questions.
Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Heather. All right, so let's move on to your report, Carrie.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a few things to report out on. Our last meeting, we had just gotten the lease agreement with the city for the sheriff's storage unit. So I did sign off on that. It was reviewed by our county attorney, and he suggested some changes, which were done. And it was given to Kelsey yesterday, so I'm expecting that to come back with the target move-in date of July 17th is what we're anticipating. So I'm still waiting for paperwork to come back from Pelican Watershed. I'm going to follow up with them. I did send that over to them for the acquisition of that building. So that should be coming to
Did you
a
still support that?
No.
coming to hopefully a conclusion here shortly. Yesterday, there was a department head meeting in the afternoon, and we started with budget kickoff, if you will. Some of those materials are in your packet with regards to some timelines and kind of highlighting some different phases throughout. Obviously, it's fluid. We may need to modify, but the discussion yesterday with the department heads with regards to the process is, looking at how can we streamline meetings. One of the suggestions was obviously department heads will be working on their budgets, taking it to their respective committees. And then in the past, I had met with them independently, and I think prior administrators had as well. But one of the suggestions from, I believe, this board, and I believe that sentiment was echoed in the department head meeting yesterday as well, to again have these meetings, but perhaps looking at streamlining. And I know the suggestion here was finance normally would see these budgets, and that would include two of you, but perhaps doing a working session with the whole board and maybe doing that during finance meeting during the crucial times, just to eliminate repetitiveness for the department head and time, and as well as for this board. So that is something I guess I would welcome any feedback you might have, if that's agreeable to all of you.
Yeah, I think that sounds good.
Yep, I agree with that.
All right. Also during, and I haven't given this to department heads yet, but it will go out. As you recall, we did have Ryan on staff, or he was visiting the county and meeting with several strategic budgeting and just really reviewing our process. So he and I have met a few times, and he's given some templates, which you'll see. This is more of a narrative that was given to the department head. And really this just gives, I guess, some guidance to department heads to, be able to write some narrative and also to start thinking about key performance measurements and things that they want to do within their department, and kind of that futuristic planning. So really just trying to set some of the tone for that, and they'll come up with ideas. And it was just presented yesterday about having them start to think about that. And that goes along with, I think, some of the requests from this board as far as dashboards and what do we want departments to report out on as far as measurements, and again, the future planning. I think what we'll see in the very near future, we've talked a little bit about, well, no, we have not talked a little, it's been a lot about space needs, and coupling that with what our future capital needs are and the capital budgeting. So this is just the start of, time. Whoops. This is just the start of really where a much bigger project. So a homeless grant, we had RFP in the past that was pushed out, a grant that we had received targeting the homeless population with the requirement is it also has to serve for minor children that are also connected to an adult or a guardian. That was discussed, or I had some discussions with Cody. There's still some money that needs to be distributed, so the RFP will go out, and then we'll review that coming back as well. And I think that's about all I have on my report,
Sweet.
Mr. Chair.
All right. So let's move on to the next topic, number 4, the taxi lane pavement rehabilitation project at the airport.
So, Mr. Chair, this comes before you. There was a lot of information provided from Kelsey, a memo in your packet. Probably the highlights of this is that this is a partnership with the city with regards to the airport. Kelsey and a few others did come yesterday to finance to be present to answer any questions that the two commissioners that were on the finance had. So, oh, sorry, that's okay, that's okay. So this is, one of the main questions was, is this the final project to really bring this to a head? I think was the really kind of one of the main questions that was asked. And the answer to that is yes. The importance of this is that this portion that's being asked for with regards to really topping off this project, if you will, is really a small portion of what the project really is. This is funded by federal funding at a high rate. I think it's 95%. And it's anticipated, as was discussed yesterday, that this funding in the very near future probably is not going to be available. So hence the request.
And one other thing Carrie stated yesterday too is that we should be able to budget for this for next year. We won't have to.
Yeah, the funding, we won't find out
Yeah.
at least until August or September if we get the federal funding.
Yeah, and then we'll be able to budget for next year.
And that's correct. And I did ask that question, and really with this project, it's a reimbursable grant. So by the time the request comes back through the county, we would be looking into 26, and Kelsey did indicate that.
Where would you budget the money for? How would you budget the money? Where would it come from?
Well, we would have to look at our airport fund, and we would have to look to see what we have.
We don't have an airport.
Well,
Well, Mr. Chair, we appropriate $45,000 a year for the airport. That's the joint power with the city. But also there was some internal financing. Some of that COVID money is coming back from the airport. Those hangars, we internally finance them.
That's just paying back their loan.
But
The
paying
money's-
back the loan to ourselves.
Yeah,
though.
they're coming back to us.
I mean, it's coming back into.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That won't.
It-
That won't.
in
that
answer-
pays the
yeah,
loan-
in answer
That
to
pays
your-
the loan off. It doesn't.
correct. In answer to your
It's-
question, it's an unbudgeted item that we're going to have
So
to
you'd
look
have
at
to-
budgeting in
You'd have
26.
to either increase the money, a one-time payment, or you have to, so it's.
Correct.
Either one-time payment, we'd have to levy it, or we'd have to,
Levy, it would.
or
And why did Kelsey speculate that the funding wouldn't be available, the federal match funds? Because it's a taxation on aviation fuel that supplies that.
I don't know if it gave
No, I don't think so. Not the way I
Which one?
understood it.
Well, the airport funding, the federal
The federal
grant money
grants.
is there because of taxing.
It's on a 5-year
airport fuel.
cycle.
You know,
That's what
that's
I
where
recall saying.
that's where the federal funding comes from is.
Correct.
So that's why it, comes.
Yeah, I recall him saying something about, there was something on
A cycle.
coming to the end specifically for more rural airports. So I don't know, maybe I don't know.
I don't know the answer to that, but he did say that I can't remember why he said why, but he said that the funding would I don't think he said more than likely, he said wouldn't be there. I think that's what he said, next year.
If we didn't do this now,
Yeah.
yeah. So in total, what we would be looking at for the two projects that are at question is the $79,910.03.
Correct. That would be
Yes.
the county portion, and the city would match that, yes.
Yes.
But remember too, I mean, we're getting $2.5 million worth of work done for that price.
Yeah.
Our split share is 159, our share is 79, but it's $2.5 million, which Barry, you said is.
2.8 in federal and state funding.
It's 2.8.
And
It
then
brings
he
the-
did also, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
He did also say that these really are the last two projects. Once these two projects are done, the airport will be in a good shape to
Tip-top
not.
shape.
Yeah, to not need anything. And other projects that the airport
Internal.
commission has funding to complete those.
What is their cash reserve?
I don't know.
I don't know that either.
I mean, do they have enough, I mean, if they have enough to cover our future, do they have enough to cover this?
I don't know. Do we,
I think it, Mr. Chair, I think this brings the airport thing to completion as far as the major runway expansion projects, these taxi lines and stuff, this kind of finishes it. If there's something else beyond that, it goes to something else. But, you know, we did back in 2017, I pulled and Kelsey told me this, he said we had up to $1 million to do this airport expansion. Steve, I don't know if that's plays into this or not. I mean, I'm a new commissioner, but that's, this would bring it to an end. I mean, it's a joint powers. We're working together. Yeah.
I think it's a stretch to say that
Yes.
the 2017 agreement should be,
Yeah.
what does it go on forever until?
yeah, that's,
I mean, but we
Right.
did get good
And we did-
value
Yeah.
for what we.
Correct, for the grants and stuff. Most of the grants came in actually,
Most of the
some were
projects
90, 10, they were 99, 95 and
And-
99. So, I mean, for the value, I think it's
and Haugs has done all the work and they
local contractor.
locally, I don't want to say underbid it, but they locally did very good bids for us, for the airport. And that's a big deal why that it didn't cost us as much money. And this will be locally done again by Haugs.
And if I recall, when he said the future projects that would need to be done, I don't know that they have the funding for it now as much as the funding that they take in will pay for those projects. So
He
the
did.
ongoing funding, not what they have in reserves. It was really more about the ongoing funding that would be coming in.
The only thing that he had brought up, I think, was the redoing of the airport terminal or whatever.
That isn't even
long
effective
way
here.
out,
That's a
yeah.
long
Yeah.
ways out.
Yeah.
That's,
Yeah.
and that would be internally financed.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Anyway,
would not
if
be-
they can do that.
The one thing that I was really concerned about was, is this the last thing? And it is.
I did some numbers. I pulled what I could. I figured we spent about, of that $1 million commitment, $935,000. This would bring us to that amount. Overall, since 2017, but I don't know, like I said, I wasn't here, but everything I could find, and using Kelsey's numbers, using Mary's numbers, that's about what that would bring us to. And I also suggested that, hey, this is the end of that resolution commitment.
I think with, one thing that we have to remember too, with that $1 million, we've gotten a lot back for the community. You know, we have the Lifelink helicopter out
Yeah,
there.
That's right.
Who are also,
Helicopter doesn't need a runway.
But still, it's all part of the airport. I mean, Herzog's is a local,
you're right again, Barry. You're right.
Oh, wow. You better talk to his wife.
You know, I struggle with this. I think it's a combination of city, county, and private business. It's just, the value's there for what we're putting into it. I mean, so you got that going for it, but referencing back, I mean, what stage of construction is this in? Where are you at is it bids been let? You know?
They must have.
well, they have it. They
Bids-
got
The
the,
bids
Oh,
have been
good.
they got
awarded.
appraised.
I mean,
Yeah.
I find it a little bit,
Bid opening was held on June 4th.
I find it a little bit unusual that you bid something and then you come and ask for us to pay for it. I find that a little bit hard to swallow.
Well, we've been working on this for a few months. We didn't know.
You haven't had a financial commitment from us. I mean, the airport has not had a financial commitment from the county to move forward with this and has not asked that we would sponsor. I mean, so
I'm struggling with it too. There is some value here. Definitely there's value here, you know, but it seems to be we've spent a lot of money on this place and now those new hangars and.
well, I think the economic value, you know, of parts coming in, I think there's value there. I don't know those numbers very well. But I think anytime in the future for any entity that's going to be asking us for money should come to us in the front end, not in the back end after bids have been let. I mean, to kind of gauge the enthusiasm for the project.
Carrie, when did, we had it on the agenda, was it two meetings ago? And we pulled it?
Correct. And then we went back to our airport commission
Yeah.
meeting.
I think we had it on the agenda for May and pulled it. Before the,
I think it was first meeting in June.
was it first meeting in June?
And I think there's a split in these projects that
Yeah.
one has been, Haug is on board, but
Yeah.
the other one that we're talking about, the
Oh,
other
the new
phase,
one
the
hasn't.
25 phase is, the grant needs to be applied for.
Yeah, that one has not been bid.
Correct.
And is contingent on,
Yeah,
The
I should
federal
have
funding.
clarified that. The
Yes.
24 project, how bid.
What is this project, what is the one that's on the table?
It's right here. It's the taxi
What's
line,
is
the
that
tie
the
down.
total, though? I mean, we're talking another project coming up.
No,
the 79,000 would fund both projects.
Both the projects.
Well, that's
No,
24
but
and
he's
25.
talking about something else down the road. For now, it's this taxi line for the tie downs and to complete this area right here. That's
that's going to cost $2.5 million.
correct. Well,
Yes, that's
yes.
2.5 million. This is,
the other project cost is 464,000. That one is, that one we, that one's already been,
24.
So almost 3 million,
2.8.
2.8
Mm-hmm.
million.
And 2.5 of that is coming from the federal government. And 62,000 is coming from the state. No, more than that.
It's from us.
What's the $97,013.80?
That is the share
for
that
City
we ha-
County.
For what? Have we paid that? Or are we being asked for that
We
again?
were asked, I
We're
thought it
being
was
asked for that.
79,000.
That's part of the,
Yeah, this is,
that's part of the 79,000 that is
That's-
being requested, 79,900.
97 is the total,
$97.03.
which would be split in half.
That's
There-
the county portion.
So
for both
half of
these
that plus
projects.
half of the
Plus half of the
62?
62, yeah.
Okay.
Correct.
Equals 70.
So it's both those projects, and both of them have been bid?
No, I don't believe the second one's been
The
bid.
second one has not.
Bid opening was held on
June 4th, wasn't
June
it?
4th for the second one.
Bid opening was held in June
But that one is contingent
how-
on
On,
the
yes.
grant.
grant,
Probably
which
not.
is anticipated in August.
Yes.
So if we approve this, it would be contingent on the
Federal funding.
The federal funding,
grant funding
yes.
to be.
Yes,
Yeah,
So we're
all
not-
of it is, yeah.
We're not,
and the
well, the
state.
first project is not contingent on that.
The
I mean,
first-
it's already
It's already been
guaranteed.
granted.
Yeah.
The second part of that is,
The second project is contingent on federal and the state funding.
Hmm.
Mainly the federal.
Yeah, it says what the federal state funding for the first project anyway, it says what it was there, and the local share, which would be split between us and the city, is 97,000.
so this is a taxiways from basically most of the hangars, and correct?
Yeah,
Yep.
And I think they just increased the price, the rental of the hangars.
They
Do
were
we-
working at that.
Yep, I think they did. Didn't they do that when we loan, with the loan?
Well, I'm not sure of the rental rate, but what they raised it to, but I think it's still pretty, pretty
Reasonable.
cheap.
so the tax and line pavement rehab program, that was basically seal coating around these areas. The second thing is for this completion of this taxiway out in front of the airport and that tie down area, which you see in the second picture there. So you're right, there are two projects. And the 79,000 would take care of both of those projects and bring the airport renovations to close.
Did you, Phil, what is the usage up out there? Is the fuel sales up? Is everything up?
You know, I didn't go back and look over past years, but I mean, the impression I get, and Carrie, I don't know, maybe you can help with this, is that, yeah, they're.
I believe Mr. Hagan stated.
Mr. Hagan
Talked
stated
about
that
that, the
yesterday,
sale
that
of
the
fuel was up.
fuel sales are up, yes.
The
Talked
LifeLink
about
is
that
getting
yesterday.
all of their fuel from there, and
Yeah.
that has dramatic. I don't remember what his exact.
I don't know
numbers
if he
were,
gave
but
it.
it has increased quite a bit.
Yeah, he said, I don't know what the number was, but he said it did increase a lot.
What other money comes, if you land a plane, do you pay when you land a plane?
Pretty much fuel is what I think,
And then
what
hangar
pays
rental.
for it.
Yeah, hang
Yeah,
on.
and hangar rental, right, and we financed 2 new hangars, which will bring in more rental, which, that was the internal financing thing. That's the money that I said you finance that with COVID money, right, or the?
We borrowed the money. We borrowed the
No.
money to, and
Yeah.
then
We did an
You borrowed the
internal.
money to the airport.
Yeah, and
Oh, yeah,
then
yeah.
paying us back
Internally.
with the hangar rental.
Mary, that was COVID money, or that was,
it was reserve money.
Okay.
General fund reserve.
Special
Okay.
general.
There's no more COVID money or
yeah, there is no more.
spent that 4 or 5 times. Well, I here's the thing. I think this should probably pass. I don't want to support it. It's kind of like the Pelican watershed,
Well, no, that's different.
I
All right.
feel the same way, but there's a lot of value here,
Yeah.
and that's, otherwise I couldn't, but I hate
When you're
to
getting
see us.
95% paid for it.
Yeah,
the
that
past.
It's
convinced,
hard not
I would
to.
agree.
actually 97.5%.
And I feel like we've
Yeah.
put 935,000
35 is my best
into it.
estimate.
Yeah,
$40 million project.
That much into it. This would come to a completion where we have a very nice
We do.
Phil, do you have a motion?
airport.
I do.
you're gonna mo-
Are you done?
I'm done, yeah.
Mr. Chair, I'd move to approve Resolution 7-25-1F for the taxi line pavement rehabilitation project and terminal apron reconstruction project.
So we have a motion for 1F. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
So we have a motion and a second. Do we have any more discussion? Okay, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, motion carries. All right, let's move on. Do you have any more?
You know what,
Go ahead.
Dave, Mr. Chair, one thing, just, this is a joint powers here too. So, anytime we can work with other institutions, I mean, I appreciate you guys doing this. That makes it a little easier for me. Barry, I get the money thing. And as I get into this a little bit more, I mean, you were screaming back in February about, hey, we got to start looking at some of this stuff. And so, I mean, thank you for doing that. It puts me in a better situation at airport, so thank you.
All right, Carrie, do you have any more?
No, I do not.
Okay, so let's move on to human services. Let's talk about some cannabis.
Did you bring samples?
Yeah, but they made us leave them out the door.
It's legal, Todd.
Well, thank you for having us, and I've asked Jason McCoy from Clay County as we partner together on a cannabis substance use prevention grant with Clay Becker on our grant work, so I'll let Jason present as the subject expert.
I know some subject experts too, but.
Right. But as I said, I didn't bring the samples. So, okay, thank you for letting me come and talk to you guys. As Amanda said, Clay and Becker, we're working together on our several different grants, Partnership for Health, our cannabis and other substance use prevention grants, things like that. And so I've been doing substance prevention for about 10 years. If you want to actually pop to the next slide. I'm going to try to put this together for you guys as briefly and as easily as possible, and then I'm here to answer questions if you have. I threw in an introduction because you're probably wondering, first of all, why the heck is this guy here from Clay County? This is me and my family. I've been doing substance prevention for 10 years. I've actually used to be one of the members of the Partnership for Health team, so I used to cover Clay, Becker, Wilkin, and Otter Tail whenever that grant, part of the grant dried up. I got more focused on Clay County specifically. So, but I'm still available to be a resource here through the Community Health Board. And by the way, my little guy there, Caleb, may be the only 4-year-old that this morning begged Dad to bring him to a commissioner's meeting. I unfortunately had to tell him no because he'd have been climbing off the walls. So anyway, this is a little about me. We'll go forward. So I wanted to give you guys something hopefully to smile about a little bit.
First of all, the main part of my work these days revolves around positive community norms, which isn't a rose-colored glasses. It really is acknowledging the concerns that we have that youth don't use cannabis, while acknowledging the fact that most of them aren't. Because there's a lot of narrative around the state, around the nation, honestly, that can make us afraid that most of the kids are out there doing it. And we're not talking about one-time sampling, right? We're talking about like regular use. And so using our Minnesota student surveys, using our local data, we know that most of our students don't use substances. Most of them are making healthy choices. And the reasons why are amazing, because it isn't who they see themselves as, it isn't who they want to be. They're actually listening to the messages that we're giving them. So just to start with that, if you don't remember anything else I'll say, please remember that, because I want you guys to be able to take that home. It changed my career to really wrap my head around the fact that we aren't operating out of a deficit. We do want to reach out and save those kids that unfortunately have made bad choices, but we want to acknowledge the fact that most of them are making those healthy choices. So with that, we'll go forward. And we'll talk about, cannabis, because we all are these days. We have a state statute that got passed through. It's continually in development, as we've seen through the last two legislative cycles. It's got a lot of different names. I don't know what you called it when you were a kid. For me, it was weed, but there's a ton of names out there for it. Ultimately, what we're talking about is a plant that has the properties to intoxicate. And so next slide. So ultimately, if you don't know, there's Delta 8, there's Delta 9. Those are the two big ones that we deal with. But there's like over 500 different Delta variants through this plant. All of them are still Schedule 1 on the federal law. That's important for us to keep in mind too. Just because the state has recreational laws passed, there is federal pushback at this point in time. They haven't rescheduled it. There's work on that. We'll see what happens over time. CBD, though, is the one exception to the Schedule 1. So it's important to keep that in mind as we go forward. Next. As I said, Delta 9, Delta 8, those are the two that were the most. And so just to reemphasize it, Delta 9 is THC. When we talk about weed, when we talk about marijuana or cannabis and getting high, we're talking about Delta 9, or from now on, I'll just kind of call it cannabis. That makes it a little bit easier. Delta 8 is usually hemp derived. So as you guys, I'm sure, have gone through a lot of the different variations of the state statute and what you can do locally, Delta 8 is usually what we talk about low potency hemp products. And I'll talk a little about that, but just to make that differentiation. Okay, next. So the biggest thing that I've learned about Delta 9 is to really realize that this is not our grandpa's weed, right? This isn't, when we talk about, really, it really is. When we go back to Woodstock and we think about that era and stuff like that, there's a reason they called it grass. It almost was grass that they were smoking, right? We're talking like 4% or less THC in the product that they were using. Nowadays, though, when the average street weed, the average weed that gets sold in a dealer's location is usually 20 to 24%.
You say dealer as in a legal?
As in a legal deal.
Illegal.
It could be either or. Oh. Like whether you're buying it from someone on the street or whether it's a licensed product, you're looking at something that's 20 to 24%.
Licensed
potency.
Products now would list the potency, wouldn't they?
They should.
Okay. They
should, absolutely. So per research, per all the information I'm going to give you, it's important to understand that 10% THC is considered high potency. So keep that in mind as we go forward. And I tell you next that when you vape a product, you're usually looking at 90% or more THC.
Well, vaping?
For THC. Yeah. So there's some really high potency stuff out there. Okay. Now, Delta 8, sometimes diet weed, we kind of call it. It's a little bit less, it's less potent, excuse me, it's less potent, and it has other problems as well, because the hemp plant is amazing. You guys may know way more about it than I do, but the hemp plant itself can suck nutrients out of the soil, bad ones like heavy metals. It can, guys, they're using it around Chernobyl to suck radiation out of the soil and try to recreate like a usable, arable land, right? This is amazing. And when it's used as it was originally intended, this is great. You know, if you're going to make clothes out of this stuff or building materials, awesome. But if you take that and you realize that, you know, I can reduce that down to a THC-like product and use it, now we have problems. If that sucked up a whole ton of heavy metals, that's a lot of the problems that we have with smoking cigarettes and things, right, that cause disease. So when that stuff gets refined and made potent and then put into things like a Delta 8 vape, now we have all kinds of other problems besides the THC, besides any kind of addiction to it as well. So just to kind of make a comparison. Next, please. CBD, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that one. Is it medicine? We're not sure. It's not, the FDA hasn't approved it yet, so I, as a public health official, can't say yes. However, there's way too much anecdotal evidence out there of people who have tried things, for example, for arthritis or whatnot, and maybe they found a cream that worked for them, for me to say that there's no help there. So absolutely, it is a product that is being researched and should be researched. There's a good chance that it could become some form of medication over time. I mean, for crying out loud, it's been used, it's recorded in ancient Egypt, China, India, all the birthplaces of medicine. They were using these products to heal. So might we find something out of it? Probably. But that's all I'm going to say about CBD right now because it has nothing to do with our state statute. Next. I already covered hemp, so we'll go forward with this one. And I just talked about medicine. We'll go forward too. Told you I'd be quick. So how's it consumed? A lot of people aren't really sure about the different ways that it's consumed, so I thought it'd be important to put this out there. When we talk about smoking, there's, of course, joints or blunts or bongs. And we've all heard different names. The differentiation, a bong is, of course, a water pipe. We might think of that as hookah. It was used quite often in a lot of comedy movies throughout the 80s, if you watch them. So most people are really familiar with that. There's an idea that using the bong or a hookah, either or, that the water in it might take some of the contaminants out. And actually what it's been proven is it wets the particulates. So when you breathe it, it sticks in your lungs more, to the point where just that part of it is 20 times worse than smoking. So yikes. Now, blunts are the cigar-like shape. If you've seen Snoop Dogg on TV, you've seen a blunt, and they can be huge. But it's using, yeah, I know. I try to put some humor in here as we go. Joints, similar to a cigarette, sometimes they're sold pre-rolled as well. But those are the three combustible versions. These come as well with some of the same problems that cigarettes have, right? When you smoke them, you're inhaling this smoke and tar and stuff into your lungs. Next. Then there's vaping it. I mentioned the vape pens, how they're usually 90+% THC. They also have all the other problems when we talk about nicotine vaping, right? So they have the products that are superheated and then cooled, and therefore they cause the lung cancers and all the different problems that we've seen with the vaping epidemic across the nation. And right now there's dual use vapes that are already on the market where you can flip a switch and you can go back and forth between cannabis and nicotine, which is really where things get extra scary because they double down on each other. Like, we find that nicotine is far more addictive than marijuana, but marijuana has way more effects on a child's brain. So when you get both of them, they're both amplified. So kind of scary stuff. And then dabbing is this idea of taking some of the of a concentrated wax of the product and melting it on a heated coil. So it turns our kids into junior MacGyvers, and they're taking their vapes apart and they're like heating this up. So they're not even getting any of the filtration product. It's all directly inhaled into their lungs. Nasty stuff. And then, of course, eating. There's the edibles that are out there right now. Right now, they should not be more than 5% THC. There's a reason why for an average adult human, 5% THC is enough to get you to a place of being high. But there are edibles that go all the way up the spectrum. So buyer beware whenever they're looking at those. Tinctures are things you might like put on your tongue. I didn't even know the name tincture, what it meant until I started researching cannabis. But there's lots of different ways. It might also be something that you put into an alcoholic beverage. And then there's topicals like creams and lotions and things like that. Next. I kind of alluded to this already. If you would like access to this document, we use it when we do tabling and giving away things, because there's a very precise science as to what an edible means. And though that might be the number one way that I'm seeing people who aren't familiar with cannabis introducing themselves to it. And so it's really important when we talk about edibles that a person realizes that it takes time for anything we eat to get into our bloodstream, as opposed to like smoking, as opposed to injecting something directly into a vein. Smoking is the fastest way to get it into your system. And edibles are the number one way, like I said, that we're using them. So if I take an edible and I have an empty stomach, 30, 45 minutes, I'll probably have it into my bloodstream because there's nothing to stop it. But if I take it after I've eaten, for example, there's brownies and things like that that are out there. You might take it as a dessert. A person might wonder why it's taking 3 hours, 4 hours for it to engage. And so they might start to think I had a dud, and they take another one. Well, it's still taking long. Maybe I had a steak dinner with some potato, right? And it's taking even longer. Now it's 4 or 5 hours, and I take a third one, and it starts catching up. And that's when I start seeing, leprechauns in the kitchen or dragons outside, things like that.
If you take multiples, then you're just.
You're going up
be
this.
taking a 20 and then, it's not working, take another 20. Well, then all of a sudden, take 3, you're up in that dangerous.
100%. That's when our sheriff is being called, and stuff. And so what's really dangerous is when a person does this and then gets in the car thinking that they're going to be fine,
Does alcohol have any accelerating effects on anything, or?
They don't, but they do operate side by side. So if you have a person who has been drinking and using cannabis, then cannabis has this effect where you tend to follow closer. You tend to have delayed reactions on braking and things like that. You may also have some of that lane departure that you get from alcohol. So you put the two of them together and you absolutely have a driver that should not be on the road. And while we have 5% THC drinks that have been legal for a couple of years now, there are drinks coming that have much higher potency THC in them with the alcohol. So something to definitely keep an eye on. Next, please. So switching over to just what's going on state law-wise, 2023, of course, was when the edibles came on the market, and that was that 5% beverages and edibles. That's why I told you. Now, the recent legislation that just passed did allow a can. We had cans that would have 2 servings of 5%, so 10% in the can. They are now allowed to not have to tell you this is 2 servings. They can just give you the can of 10% and say that's 1 serving. So again, it's one of the things that hopefully the population will pay attention to as we go forward, because a person could easily get too much into their system. 2024 is when the recreational law went into effect. Individuals owning their own home could grow up to 6 plants in their backyard. They could have a lot of product on site. I believe I have that on the next slide. 2025, this is when retail sales are coming. They're doing the lotteries right now, so we could have stores opening anytime. We do, for example, in Moorhead, we have a store already open because it came from a tribal nation. They were allowed to start ahead because we don't get to tell them how to regulate themselves. However, White Earth made a special arrangement with the governor's office that allowed them to open early. So we're getting to kind of pilot that in Moorhead. And then for me, I'm an educator at heart. We will not see money given for education in our schools until 2026 to 2027. So there's a lot going on before our kids even get some education.
It's very well thought out by the legislation.
Yes.
Let's throw it out there, then we educate after they're done.
100%, 100%. And so, Mr. Hanson, you had a question?
Mr. Chair, education for what?
Education on potency, some of the same information I'm giving you, like what it could do in the body, things like that. So your general health education that you might get in 8th grade, 10th grade, things like that.
Remember put the egg in the frying pan?
Yeah.
This is your brain on drugs.
Yeah.
Hopefully we do better than that this time, though.
see.
Okay, next slide, please.
I don't get this whole thing.
I included this picture on purpose to show you that many people on TV have seen a plant that, is maybe like this tall. That out in the wild in Colorado, that is a fully formed cannabis plant. and a person can grow 6 of those in their backyard if they can keep it alive long enough. So that plant, that's a 6'4" DEA agent standing right next to it, just to give it some perspective. Anyway, so we can use cannabis in
That's a
our
real
home.
plant?
That's a real plant.
I mean, a real photo, real plant, not AI?
Yeah. Yeah.
Looks like it.
Right now, by state law, you can use it in your home, yard, or curtilage. For anyone that's listening that doesn't know what a curtilage is, that's a shed in your yard. I had to look that up myself. You cannot use it anywhere prohibited by Minnesota Clean Indoor Air. So that's one of the nice things we have for us is anywhere Clean Indoor Air already covers us. Cannabis, smoking, and vaping is covered, including multi-unit housing. So that's important. If you have, as commissioners, if you have apartment owners asking you, like, what can I do? The state law does cover them already. You're not allowed to smoke or vape cannabis indoors if you are in a multi-unit home. So if you're renting, for example, a one-family home, then it could be allowed. They could make a policy. They are backed up by law. So that's good to know.
Mr. Chair,
yeah.
so who's policing that?
Great question. That falls down to the owners to be able to make the reports. I'm already fielding those calls myself in Clay County. So you can possess 2 ounces on your person, 2 pounds in your home, because we have a long winter is what I was told when I asked that question. 8 grams of the cannabis concentrate, up to 800 milligrams of edibles. So you break that down, and of course 6 plants on site, 2 of which are not supposed to be flowering. And again, to Mr. Hansen's question, like who's gonna, no one's looking in anybody's backyard. Okay, next slide. I told you about the legal sales starting July 1st of 2022 is when edibles and beverages went out. At this point in time, anyone that got one of the original licenses from Minnesota Department of Health should be switching over to the low potency hemp licensing. So if they don't have that, they're subject up to a $2,000 penalty. So hopefully they would be following with Office of Cannabis Management. And then, yes, you have to be an adult store to be able to sell anything other than the edibles. It has to be an actual THC store. So that's very important to keep in mind, which you should know very well they should be licensing themselves through. Next slide. So this is where the licensed cannabis stores where they can only sell cannabis. We can't have a vape store that also sells the high potency cannabis. We can't have a grocery store or a gas station selling the high potency cannabis. They're only eligible for the low potency products, which I mentioned, they have their own issues, but the high potency stuff is supposed to be in a store that only sells the high potency products. And that's so we don't have confusion when we do compliance checks, when we have someone go in there. Someone under the age of 21 should not even be allowed through the door. So they're not supposed to be sampling the product. It's supposed to be under restricted access. So in other words, behind glass, that where you have to actually bring it out and give it out. They're supposed to have their own security plan that's licensed, and they're not supposed to have any. Well, I need to take that bullet point off. I'm sorry. As of this last one, drive-through is allowed, and vending is not. So delivery of sales has been permitted as of the most recent legislative. So that's something that you would have to.
You can DoorDash it.
Exactly.
And those DoorDash people will verify the age of everyone, I can guarantee.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm with you on that.
A question on, it says may only sell cannabis. On the previous slide, it said you could sell at liquor store only.
Oh, okay. So when this first came out, liquor stores were going to be allowed and are still allowed to sell if it's an off-sale location. Not like, so if you walk into a bar, they're not allowed to sell the high potency, but they can have low potency because that's a lot of your drinks or your edibles, but they couldn't sell the higher potency products. And originally that was all that was going to be allowed to sell the low potency products. But now that has become.
So if there's a liquor store or a muni, like Lake Park Muni, and they're separate, they will be able to sell cannabis in the liquor store?
At the low potency stuff, yes.
Okay, so not this.
Right, not these products. Okay. If it feels a bit confusing, they literally are building this out as they go.
Yeah.
And finding just fascinating things for us as we go. cannabis events, that think of it like a beer garden. If someone wants to have one in Becker County, they have to come to you or whoever you've made your
say
body
no.
to, you are allowed. It's the one thing in this law that you are allowed to say no to. Otherwise, they have to, if they go through the process, which begins with Office of Cannabis Management, and then if they have the legal ability to have it, then they have to come to you. You get to choose yes or no, if you allow it to be hosted.
There'll probably be a 3-day event out here on the WeFest grounds there.
That's exactly the kind of thing to think about. And
Well,
if you pursue that, the things to think about would be, that I would urge, is to think of it exactly like a beer garden, except in this case, secondhand high is a thing. If you have a beer garden and a person doesn't want to drink, they're not getting drunk. In this case, if a person is allowed to just walk around smoking cannabis, people around them are getting high as well. So, important to keep in mind. Next. Okay, I mentioned this. State statute prohibits smoking and vaping of non-medical cannabis within a multi-unit housing. As Commissioner Hanson brought up, you can report it up to the Office of Cannabis Management. They don't have a lot of people going out doing inspections yet, so I don't know how fast someone would get there. It is something that can be enforced, though. It could be done but it would involve the owner having to take the tenant to court. It's kind of a messy situation. You can't prohibit the use of edibles or medical cannabis in any form. It's unknown about personal growing. No one has made a definitive statement at this point in time. If you're renting, can I grow? If you can't smoke it and vape it, my thought is the answer is you can say no, but no one has tried this out yet, and no one has written this into law yet as to what a renter could do. And then there is a nuisance provision, which again was given no definition. Nuisance provision in multi-unit housing is generally things like loud parties and things like that. So it can be handled the same way. It is given some leeway for people to be able to enforce it. But once again, who do I call to enforce this? Next.
Can you smoke in public? I mean,
so if Becker County doesn't pass a public use ordinance, then you can smoke anywhere that clean indoor air doesn't cover. And clean indoor air only covers indoor locations.
Okay.
So as example, I could walk down any street or sidewalk, be at the beach. Absolutely. But there is, League of Minnesota Cities has made a really good model ordinance that many of our counties have passed. Clay County has passed it as well, where that says effectively it dumbs it down to say in your home or in your yard, you can smoke. Once you step off the berm, don't do it. So you absolutely could pass that.
We passed something
I think,
on county property, I think.
well, I think we need to review that.
Yeah, we need to look at it, yeah.
I'd be happy to provide Amanda with a copy to give you guys.
And we should encourage the city to, I'm sure they have, but I don't want the fairgrounds to be a spot where we're going to be having to deal with this, or,
Right.
I don't want the public beach or even Middle Cormorant access. I don't think people should be smoking in public.
Yeah, especially when you think about how it affects little kids' brains. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's going back to like when smoking was allowed in bars and you're stuck in there. It's like,
absolutely. Next slide. In the workplace, this gets a little interesting. Employers are not allowed to allow use. Now, I say it that way on purpose because the question comes up, if a person can walk off the job and can use at home recreationally, what is our ability as a workplace, right? And so it really boils down to the same thing, if I can make a cross-reference to alcohol. We wouldn't let somebody come to work drunk. We certainly wouldn't let them drive the company vehicle drunk. We wouldn't allow our law enforcement or security to be carrying weapons drunk. I mean, all of these are very similar laws, right? So when it comes to, can I test someone if I think they're using cannabis? Yes, you can, for your own protection. Make sure that it's for a reason, not just they smelled a little funny. If they're showing up and they're not delivering the job that they were hired to do, absolutely, you can always ask for a drug test to find out. Per per the state statute, which goes all the way back to Schedule 1. The only jobs where you're not allowed to use cannabis would be if you work with youth, if you work with vulnerable adults, if you drive a CDL style license for your job, and if you have to use a firearm as part of your job. So those are, the fifth is if you have a federal grant. So like for myself, I work with kids, I work with some vulnerable adults, and I am part of a federal grant. So I have three things saying Jason McCoy will never be using cannabis. I didn't want to, but if I had. So those are things to keep in mind from an employer perspective, as you are. And then the other important thing that I put on there is that for family and group daycares, they have, if they choose to use when the kids aren't present, they have to make sure that the parents know that that happens. And that's that secondhand smoke version. Because if the minute the kids are gone, you're smoking cannabis, parents need to know that their kids are being exposed to that whenever they come over. Next slide.
And these rules can change every day, so.
They have in each legislative cycle so far. Yeah. So Office of Cannabis Management is stood up and is working now. I think they made a really good decision when they put their acting director in charge. He is a lawyer by trade, and so he's been making sure to give us more resources to help and make sure things are more better defined. So that's been something that's been very helpful. Our licensing and the taxation, all of this is coming through Office of Cannabis Management at this point in time. They've put out some really good documents to help us with things like compliance checks, and if you choose to go through ordinances or what a person can sell and what can't sell, like we have a lot. And this is just in like the last 2 months, these things have come out. Next. So when we talk about local control, things that you probably already know, but just in case, things that you can and can't do, because this law was very, very stringent on certain things that we, first of all, is that we couldn't prohibit a business. We couldn't say no directly. So Becker County couldn't say, no, we don't want any cannabis here at all. That was literally written into the statute. However, we can regulate time, place, and manner of sale. So things like we can prohibit proximity to schools, daycares, and we can limit zoning to where we want the locations to be. We can limit retailers to 1 per 12,500. So in Becker County, for example, that would be 3 stores total. You can approve and reject the cannabis events. We can't prohibit possession, transport, or use. Now, I did say about the public use you can, but when we talk about their at home, we can't stop them from using it at home, which can be problematic. You could have people calling you like, my neighbor is smoking, it's coming across the fence, things
So
like that.
The 3 in Becker County, this is only the stores at 21 above and
Yes.
only cannabis.
Correct.
We can have, so it's not the lower dose, those are separate.
Correct.
So the 3 is just does that include tribal?
No, we're not allowed to count the tribal stores, and we're not allowed to state what they can and can't have, just what's on our ground.
So like you in Moorhead?
Right, exactly. And then cities can do differently. They don't have to follow along. However, and this is confusing, but we can, as a county, choose to count the ones that happen. So let's say DL had 3 already, and Becker County had passed 1 per 12,500. And then someone asked to open a store in an unincorporated area. You could say no. Like, we've got our 3. You could choose to do that. Or you could choose to say it has to be 3 where we license, and we're just not doing anything with that city. To make things even a little more confusing, the city can choose to give you, as a county, the rights to regulation for their city. But that also puts compliance on you as well.
Do we have to take it?
You do not. So there's a form that has to be filled out, has to be filed with OCM, and then all of that. So I apologize. Some of this is a little tedious. Any other questions on that slide? Townships, the same goes. If you want to regulate them and they want you to regulate it, absolutely, they do need to fill out that form. Mm-hmm. And then you can. Okay. And at that point in time, they can fall into the 1 per 12,500. or you can allow it to be whatever the market says. What can get frustrating is as a county body, if you choose to say, we're going to limit, and a particular city or township within could say, we're going to let the market, carry it. And they could end up having double what you were hoping would be in the county. So, yeah. Okay, next.
Oh, you made this a lot clearer, so.
I hope I'm giving some clearness in the fog.
You're educating us. I don't know if it's clear.
Yeah, it's tough. And I'm available for questions. And if you think of questions afterwards as well.
Reach out to me.
Yeah.
Help.
You can charge a registration fee. $500 is the max. I absolutely recommend that you go with that max because that is how you're going to pay for compliance checks. That's going to pay for filing. That's going to pay for all the work that you're going to have to do around this. $1,000 max for renewals. You can't charge an application fee on top of that, which I thought was fascinating, but I had to include it. You shall, by state statute, issue retail registration. We don't get out of this. We have to give the registration. The license comes from Office of Cannabis Management. We get the registration fees because we get to do the work as of compliance and compliance checks, and if there's any enforcement that needs to be done, that falls on us.
Mr. Chair, when you said we need to do the work, who's we?
As a county or as a city, as a governmental body, it is put on us. The state passed the law and put this work on us.
But they issue the license.
Yes.
So for the county, that means the sheriff.
Yes. Unless, like in Clay County, they gave public health that ability to do that. So it is who you name to be your enforcement arm.
So public health, Amanda, you could be the enforcement arm for this?
Could be if you appointed public health to it.
Since you're not doing much, we'll just add that to your list.
Yeah.
So in the shall, it's retail registration, renew the registrations, conduct the compliance checks. Office of Cannabis Management does have guidance now on their website. We may suspend if not in compliance. That was something new that this legislative cycle gave us. So in other words, if we find out that someone's selling to kids, we can shut them down until it's all worked out. And that might last up to 30 days. We don't have to let them keep selling the product and wait for Office of Cannabis Management to send a state person here to investigate. So they will have to send somebody, but we can stop the sale at that point in time. Next. Oops.
You just push the enter button or the arrow.
Oh. Oh, just one too far.
Push the back arrow.
There you go. So I was trying to break it down here for you. County government, city and townships may work together. One business for 12,500. If you choose to write that into an ordinance, if not, it's what the market can handle. We can't prevent businesses unless, this is what we were just talking through, they choose to give the registration control of the county. They have to fill out that Office of Cannabis Management form or else that doesn't count. Compliance is provided by registering entity. Once the maximum is reached, you may choose to prevent new businesses from opening. And a city under the county may choose to allow as many businesses as the market will bear. So that's what we were just talking through. Next. So this probably makes a lot of sense with how I just described this. My suggestion is as many people as possible to work together. Pass a public use ordinance that will cover your parks, sidewalks. It'll define your public spaces for you. Keep the registration fee as high as you absolutely can because this is the money you're going to need to make sure that you're not dipping into your own pocket to be able to provide compliance checks or enforcement and things like that. Zoning, in Clay County, we did industrial, we did highway retail is where we put things.
Is this for growing or selling?
Both.
Both?
Consider those schools and daycares. Keep the businesses as far away as possible because they will market, absolutely. When you consider waste, we actually wrote into our waste ordinance to think about clippings and how they're destroyed, to have a plan and as part of the business plan that they're going to destroy. Because what we've heard from other places is that kids Kids are smart, right? I mean, the kids used to pick up cigarette butts off the ground, and that's how they get their first hit of nicotine. They will watch a store and see when they throw away the clippings and make their own rolls and things like that. So it's important to make sure that those get destroyed. And then nuisance, make sure that you treat it like any other ag business for nuisance, because it does smell badly if they're producing things. But what I've been warned is that right now at the state level, the marijuana industry is, the stops are being pulled out to allow it to get going. And so we want to be careful, because if we're seen as being enforcing things that we wouldn't enforce on somebody else, as far as agricultural smoke or waste or things like that, that we could end up getting like targeted as well. So just to keep that in mind.
That makes no, it's a new category. What do you mean? I mean, that just doesn't make sense to me, but.
I'm with you. Next slide. And that's my contact information. I will provide these slides. You guys already have them. If you have more questions, I'm happy to answer them now or when at a time of your convenience as well.
I can send this information out to you.
Yeah, that'd be great. Does anybody have any question for Jason? All right.
Oh, I have lots of questions, but.
Yeah, I mean.
So do I. Thank you for the information.
Thank
There's
you
a lot
very
of
much.
clarity there, so thank you.
Thank you very much.
No problem.
All right, we're gonna,
More to come.
Yeah.
we're gonna take a 5-minute break. So 11:05, come back here, 6-minute break. All right, we'll re-adjourn our meeting.
Re-adjourn, what's?
I don't know what that means. Although I probably deserve that.
Re-adjourn.
I did say re-adjourn.
Where are we going?
We're gonna move to our sheriff. We're gonna skip ahead to him and then we'll go back.
I did the dive. Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. It's on. Okay. Okay, now I'm ready. You wanted to go back to the consent agenda?
Yeah, if we go to number 10 first with where the We Fest
Yes.
parking people or traffic control.
So I'm looking for approval to hire 28, or excuse me, it would be enough for 28 shifts for We Fest traffic duty. This will cover 12 daytime positions and 16 evening and nighttime positions. We originally had talked about 26 at committee, but we'd like to have 2 extra to help with rotations if, obviously in the heat and those that need a break.
I just want to clarify, the 28 is, it's actually 96 positions, but it's probably handled by 28 people.
Yes.
Yeah.
96 posts, you mean?
96 posts, yes.
I make motion to approve.
Yep, I'll second. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. And note that's covered by the We Fest fees.
Yes, correct. It is covered by the.
Correct. Okay, and then I had asked Mr. Chair if I could switch 1 and 2 around. So I'd like to go to the request to sell a squad.
Motion to approve.
Motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to sell the squad. Do we have any further discussion? Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion carries.
Thank you. And then I'd like to bring in the group for the awards.
Sweet.
It'll take just a couple minutes to do that.
Mr. Chair, why do you have to bring in the squad to sell? Because it's going to be above $5,000?
To sell it.
To sell it.
To sell.
He's selling county equipment?
Sell
correct.
So
county.
anytime we dispose of county equipment, we have to,
Yes.
Or receive grant fund, or receive donation funds.
We have to approve.
Board approval.
It has to be available to the public.
Public has to be able to see it.
Just for the record, there was over 100,000 miles when the engine blew on that vehicle. So.
all right. So we're disposing county
Own vehicle.
equipment, so we have to, okay, makes sense.
Wow, nobody wants to sit up front.
What are we doing here?
This is the public safety board.
Sure down. Sure, I walked in with this yellow, you walked in late with this bright yellow shirt on.
Lots of room, come on in.
Right in the front row, Harvey.
I see you dressed up for the occasion.
Don't have wrong spot.
Be careful of the guy in the yellow shirt.
Yeah, he's kind of scary.
Okay. Today I'm going to be giving out some life-saving awards, and I'd like to call up Communications Officer Jacob Krosh and Sergeant Brian Aho first. If you guys want to stand right there. And honestly, I could be giving out awards monthly. But there's 2 that stick out, and this goes back to this winter. On February 7th, 2025, at approximately 4:54 a.m., the Becker County Sheriff's Office received a cell phone detected crash at the intersection of County Road 151 and 460th Avenue in Toad Lake Township. Communications Officer Krosh answered that 911 call, but there was no response. Although there was no response on the phone, he had a feeling that something was wrong. He immediately dispatched Sergeant Aho to the location of the possible crash, along with Wolf Lake Rescue and the Wolf Lake Fire Department. Krosh continued to try to communicate with someone on the phone and eventually heard what sounded like labored breathing. Now, again, Jacob is inside four walls and a ceiling with only the phone to go by. Krosh continued to attempt to talk to the person while emergency personnel responded. When Sergeant Aho arrived, he discovered that a vehicle had crashed in the trees at that intersection with the driver in obvious distress due to extensive injuries and rapid blood loss. Sergeant Aho immediately worked to control bleeding. The patient was eventually airlifted to a Fargo hospital for emergency treatment. Due to quick thinking and immediate response by both of these officers, the patient has now returned home and is recovering from this incident. And at this time, possibly fully recovered. So I just want to say congratulations to these officers and thank you. Good job.
After your next one, sure.
Okay. Aho, you stay right there. Deputy Adam Winter. So this is 9 days later. And I just want to say that Deputy Winter is also one of our canine handlers. And I come to think, I hear these comments all the time, there's never a cop when you need one. And this will prove that theory wrong. On February 16th, 2025, at approximately 3:18 a.m., Deputy Adam Winter was patrolling County Highway 26 when he saw a vehicle in the ditch that appeared to have crashed. The vehicle was severely damaged and appeared to have been there for an extended period of time due to the frost on the vehicle. Winter notified dispatch of the crash, and Sergeant Aho, who was also near the crash site, responded. As they got closer to the vehicle, they could hear screaming coming from inside the vehicle. EMS was immediately dispatched to the scene along with an air ambulance. It should be noted that the temperature that night was -10. And that was at the time the vehicle was discovered by Deputy Winter. A male was found inside the vehicle. The male was obviously injured and suffering from hypothermia. Winter and Aho immediately started first aid and tried to warm the male with blankets. The male was then flown by air carrier to a hospital in Fargo. It was later discovered that the vehicle had left the road and flipped in an end-over-end manner at least 3 times, several hours prior. If not for the quick response and actions of Deputy Winter and Sergeant Aho, this incident may have had a much more tragic result. Thank you both.
Sure. Not necessarily of us, though.
No, we'll get out of the way.
What do you want?
I'd like
Us on.
photos with Dave.
They'll stay lower level. Anyone who wants pictures, does.
Yeah, now's the time.
Todd, you want to jump in?
I have to say this, we had one of the mothers forgot her phone camera, and she had time to go pick it up. Can you imagine that?
How far away? No, maybe it was just the long form, maybe this is one picture. Get that weight out. Yeah. Now the real heroes. No one, you guys just shoot. Okay.
Yeah, we can do it outside, so they can go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep, thanks, Todd. Is that it? For Todd?
For me, anyway.
Yep, okay, thank you.
I gotta go shake some hands.
I'll get out of your way. Do you want any of this family?
What are we gonna go back to, Carrie?
I'm sorry, what?
We'll go back to human resources then? We'll go back, okay.
That's what I understand.
He's the chair, he can do whatever he wants. Back to 6, we'll go back to human resources?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Tiara?
I did not realize how much Harvey's son looked like in it.
Oh, yeah.
I know, he looks just like him. Isn't that something? Yeah, you're
Oh,
next. Yeah,
you're,
you are next. We'll just wait for everybody to clear out here.
hey, what are we gonna do about
I don't know.
work sessions? I could do work sessions every Tuesday till the end of the year. We could. And you know what?
yeah.
You know, here's what I was like, I thought we had it all figured out.
Oh, I did.
It's amazing
I
they
know.
can find that, they know that phone crashed and they can find that
I mean,
fast.
I'm thinking of the growing specifically, like, I'm not as worried about the retail, I feel like the retail. Like,
All right, let's go ahead with human resources.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner. So the first item that is before you is Resolution 7251D. This is a forming of a group that can contribute to an HCSP, which is a healthcare savings plan. This is written into contracts with majority of our unions, but there is an ability for the board to assign groups by approving the resolution. There have been a couple of requests, so the first is the Resolution 1D, and then the second is Resolution 1E. 1D is for the administration office, and then 1E is for the post-licensed non-union members of the sheriff's office.
So,
We
go-
don't, or these two offices don't currently,
These individuals do not. So there is not a full group for non-union
Okay.
members. All of, like I said, all except for one of our union contracts do currently have an HCSP contribution in place, but our non-union does not. The MSRS representative, Sakoti, he told us that we could form groups outside of like the collective units as long as we have at least 2 members and there is a common denominator between the members and they can agree to what the percentage contribution is and so on.
and have we brought this out to all non-union members or just those that have come forward?
There were conversations in the past. So there is one employee in particularly that really does want to join a group, but there were conversations in the past with the full non-union group, and there was never ability to agree on what percentage and so on and so forth. So I am communicating with the other non-union members in offices, and if they can form a group of at least 2 participants that have a common denominator, then you may see more of these resolutions before you.
So if the non-union forms a group, they don't all have to contribute, do they?
They do.
Oh, they
It's
do.
all
have-
or nothing.
oh.
So the only exception to that is if an individual is on a retirement TRICARE account, either themselves or a spouse, and they can actually elect to not contribute. But there are very, very few stipulations where you can not contribute if you're part of a group.
Mr. Chair, Tira, if we've got 330, 50 employees, what percentage are union and what percent are not?
The majority are
Are-
union. I don't have an exact number off the top of my head. So there are certain positions that are non-union. So any supervisory, and I can't say
Department
any.
heads.
Department heads are not union. I would say 90 would be.
Are union.
Yes.
Yeah.
Didn't know that.
Motion to approve 1D.
We have a motion by Barry to approve 1D. Do we have, what?
Second.
Second by Erica. Do we have any discussion? Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, need to entertain a motion for 1E.
So moved.
Moved by, motion by Barry, second by
Me.
Erica.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carries.
And then the third item that I have before you are the job descriptions for the sheriff's office. There are 3 reclassifications after going back and forth with Sheriff's Department, DDA, making sure everything is in place and correct. There were 3 positions that were identified as needing to be regraded. The memo is in front of you from DDA with the reasoning on that. The cost associated with that is less than $5,000 for the remainder of 2025, and then it would be budgeted for going forward into 2026. Then I would also like to add, for the Sheriff's Office Administrative Assistant position, I do have a couple of small tweaks to make that were brought to my attention after putting it in the packet. So if you can allow the flexibility to make those tweaks, or if you want me to call them out, I certainly can.
I'll make a motion to approve and allow the tweaks as long as confirmed by our administrator.
So we have a motion by
The changes.
Barry. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Richard. Okay, any discussion? Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion carries.
Thank you.
Yep. All right, let's go to Judy.
Thanks, Tara.
Thank you, Tara.
Hi, Judy. I'm up to date on all my testing.
Oh, good.
So am I.
Good morning, Commissioners. Good morning, Chairman.
Morning.
Today I'm here, I'm going to let you know how many on-call tickets we've had, or on-call calls we've had since June 1st, 2024 through May 31st, 2025. We've had a total of 15. 5 were from Clearwater, 9 were from dispatch, jail, and sheriff, and that's all Becker County, and 1 was from White Earth. I have some detail if you want to hear it.
Mr. Chair, Judy.
Yeah.
These calls are for what?
Well, it depends. They're just
These are
off
IT
hours.
calls?
They're calls because almost all the Clearwater calls is because somebody from their department can't get into our
VPN.
our VPN, which is where they get their, they use a product called Zerker, which is managed by Central Square. And what that does is that helps them be safer out there. Again, the sheriff can explain exactly what it is if he was still in here. I just know that that's what they use to run certain things.
It's calls to Judy or her office for after-hour service.
After-hour
to get
support
into
for
get into
the sheriff's office and anybody else in law enforcement, for law enforcement.
Okay.
Okay? And so for all of the ones for Clearwater County, it was to get into our system using our multi-factor authentication. And there are various dates. I think you've got the dates on there.
Yep.
The reason why I broke out the dispatch, jail, and sheriff's office was only just because we'd broken it out on our system. I mean, there's no real reason. Now, what I did want to point out is we have the 719, 720, and 720. Those are actually 3 different calls. The first one was for, I don't know if everybody remembers, but last July 20th, or the 19th, excuse me, we had what we've termed the CrowdStrike incident. That's a product we use for through the state that stops malware and those kinds of things. the CrowdStrike people had made a mistake when they were updating their, and this is in the news, so this is not new. They had made a mistake, and they created anybody that was not logged in, or that had to reboot, you couldn't get in. So we brought in, but really it was kind of an all hands on deck. We brought in everybody from IT that was available and came in and started doing what we needed to do fairly early in the morning. But that was the first thing. We got that resolved by probably 3 or 4 in the afternoon, and we're very happy. And then all went home thinking that, well, we're not going to get another call for quite a few days. Then on 7/20, we took a minor power glitch. But what that power glitch did is it took out one of our UPSs in our data center. And it was an important one because it took out our storage area network. You guys might remember purchasing that a couple years ago, but all of a sudden that had no power. So that was the next call. And that took quite a while to get back up. We had to fix we wanted to fix the UPS and then go from there. So that took most of Saturday. And then a little bit later Saturday, late afternoon, we took another call because out at the jail, they had their PC, their pre-booking computer just wasn't working. So then negotiated with them to go out on a Sunday, and we went out that day and took care of that. So those are 3 incidents all within the same weekend. So we just never know how it's going to happen. And so we do put these in as tickets because that's the best way for us to keep track of them. And if anybody wants to, I can send people tickets if they really want to see them. I've got the ticket numbers. I've got the approximate amount of time there. Some of them are 5 minutes. Most of the ones for, if it's a locked account, that's 5 minutes. We just have to get in and unlock it. Some of them are 15 minutes. Some of them could be 30 minutes, 2 minutes. Somebody typed in the wrong password and they called. So it all depends. And then that CrowdStrike one was 18 hours. The power failure was about 5.5. It was a couple hours for the pre-booking computer. But other than that, they're mostly, a couple minutes here, maybe. The one that we had with Whiter was a couple hours, but that's because we were waiting for calls back. So that's kind of where we're at. Are there any questions on this? Do you want more information? Less information? I think less information.
No,
That's what I just saw.
I still don't really know what we're talking about, to be honest with you. Why is Clearwater calling here? Is this to access our website?
We have a relationship with Clearwater County and Audubon, the city of Audubon, the city of Frazee, the city of Lake Park, the city of Detroit Lakes, and White Earth. They all use this same product that I mentioned, this by crowds, by Central Square.
Hold on, Judy. Mr. Chair, let me get with you. I think you
Okay.
guys all know, I thought this was sheriff stuff that was coming up here. So I will get with you and we'll figure this out.
No problem.
So just a little bit of background for you,
Yeah.
Phil. About a year ago, we enacted a policy to pay on-call, $4 an hour for the IT department to be on call to answer these
After
hours. So we're a year later, so we're just getting an update on where we've been for calls. So probably should have let you
I'll
know.
get with you,
Okay,
Judy.
yep.
I'll get with you.
ahead
Thank
of
you.
that, But
Anything else?
Thank you, Judy.
Yep.
I think for me, I just want to talk a little bit about, that this is 15 calls, only 9 of them were for our sheriff's department.
Mm-hmm.
And it is costing us
$26,000.
$26,000 a year. So I would like for us to reevaluate how we do this, whether it's our on-call. I would suggest maybe we only have on-call on weekends and not during the week. I think we need to have conversations with Clearwater and other entities about how, if we're paying $26,000 to be on call and 6 of them aren't coming from
Becker County.
our agency, then I don't know that it's fair that we're paying for it.
I would agree with you as far as that goes. All I can tell you is if people need help, and we don't pay for on-call, no one will answer the phone. That's it. I mean,
I think maybe the better thing, I think we should continue with on-call, but, maybe with all the different towns and agencies, maybe just have an annual fee. And we can, even if we pick up most of it and small cities pick up a small portion of maybe usage, you can figure a percentage. We're obviously the highest use. Clearwater would probably pop up there a little bit, and obviously they should be contributing if they're five calls. And
were they 5? Yeah, they were 5.
so,
I don't know.
I would disagree with you that we need to continue it. I think we could look at other ways of doing it, whether it's through job descriptions or I don't know what the answer is, but I think we should explore other things, because this is, I believe I looked and I think we had 3 calls where 3 months where we had no calls. So we paid that much money just in case.
I think if you look at, I think the first thing is to decide, are these calls important enough to address at the time? And I think the answer is going to be yes. I think you can't have your sheriff's department not being.
I would agree.
So then if you want to go the other route and look at salaried employees, I think then you're going to look at job descriptions. And if you're 24/7 employee on call, I think that pay raise you're going to be affected the payroll in that way also, I believe. You can't expect the salaried person. There's going to be a difference in salary if you're going to be on call 24/7 or if you're just 8 to 5,
I don't think on-call 24/7. I don't know what the answer is. Honestly, I don't know what the answer is, but I don't think it's this. I don't think it's us paying $4 an hour for 16 hours, 5 days a week, and $4 an hour for 24 hours, 2 days a week, for 15 calls in a year.
The problem is that in an emergency situation, everybody relies on technology now.
Mm-hmm.
And which emergency situation is not worth 26? If somebody dies, is that worth?
No, I would agree.
I don't see how we have any choice here, but I don't like it either, but we don't.
I don't know what to do.
I want to make sure our sheriff has access to Judy when he needs it, because all of our stuff depends on technology.
I agree with both of you, or all of you. I don't like spending $26,000. I think, God, I don't know what the answer is. I know that Clearwater and White Earth and whoever else should pay us for the service. But I don't know how much. Yeah.
And I don't know anything.
Yeah.
I'll just get up to speed.
I think
safer that way.
I think we need to have a plan at minimum where the other agencies that use our VPN system or use our VPN to get into our system
Need to pay for it.
need to pay for it.
And pay for the on-call.
Yeah.
Or they can choose not to.
Or they can go on their own.
Yeah, they can choose not to.
And then
We're doing it as a service right now, you're right.
I think, Judy, maybe you look at, bring to committee some, some possible fee structures for those that are.
Yeah, I think that would be, I think that would be equitable.
I think then we can review it and say for 26, if you want this available, then we ask that you contribute.
Yep, I
X
can certainly.
amount. And 26 divided by all those, and us as the main user, I don't think our ask is going to be a lot.
No, but it's going to help.
Well, it's more.
Anything else?
Nope, that's it. Thanks, Judy.
Thanks, Judy. All right, let's move on to Steve and Mitch. Holy cow, we're coming to the break. Oh, we're ahead.
Oh my gosh,
So much for the
11:30.
short meeting. It's not your fault, Bill.
Thank you.
Keep saying that. It's not your fault.
Thank you.
Morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners, Marty, Iggy. We have 3 items before us. Most of it's Parks and Rec and NRM related items. For Parks and Rec, we have a resolution to support the expansion or developments at the Detroit Mountain Recreation Area. That would also include improvements to our Mountain View Recreation Park. They're going to be putting in some improvements there as part of this as well. There's a list of things. This grant would include a trail going from the Heartland Trail up to DLMRA, up in that area, along with camping and then purchasing some properties. Basically, this resolution is the same one that the county signed before. It's just expanding it out a little further. Anybody have any questions?
Or we're not obligating any financial.
No. No. It just helps us in the fact that they're including some improvements to our properties.
I just curious, in some of the wordage, you're just making sure we're not obligating to expand or do anything in the future. So as long as we're asking for it, I'll make a motion to approve 1G.
We have a motion by Barry, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Erica. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right.
Thank you. The second one is the USDA Wildlife Damage Management Agreement. I don't know, do you have a brief?
Yeah, yep. An agreement with the U.S. Department of Agriculture. They have a division, wildlife division. What it is an agreement to allow the USDA to take wildlife damage control measures on county tax forfeited, county managed lands. So that would be, beaver trapping or whatever use of control they're going to use, trapping, firearms, snares, explosives to some extent, as well as gray wolf and coyote. But the main thing would be beaver control. So this was sent to Carrie from USDA. I did talk with the other counties. Several other counties have passed this. It is advantageous, I think, to us and to them as well, especially in situations where beaver control or beaver dams are impacting railroads, state highways, but the work needs to be done on tax forfeited land. So this would allow USDA to carry out that work.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Barry, second by Phil. Do we have any more discussion? All right, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carries.
The last thing is disposal of county-owned property. That also includes some property from the Pelican River watershed.
That's the
17.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
the only reason I want this pulled is on number 2, the funding.
Yeah.
Sale proceeds will be receipted in the account that they were initially paid from. I don't think that's clear enough, especially with the watershed building on there.
Yeah.
I think, just for clarification, I think Pelican built that, so we're not sending it back to so if there's any revenues, I don't know how the wordage should read, but that's the only.
It's a very good point. You're right again.
Oh my God, that's 3 times
That's
one
four.
meeting.
So, and then the Pelican watershed, that is being sold for them? That is
I asked that yesterday.
Is that their equipment?
But apparently we have obtained it.
So where does that funding go back to then?
So we talked about that in finance. Basically, it's an old elevator that is sitting out there. You probably
I don't
seen
care
it.
what it is. Where does the money go?
For the building or for the?
No, for the
Conveyor.
elevator, the conveyor.
Steve had put down less the sale of the expenses. So Becker County has some, for moving it offsite and getting it.
So how should we state where the sale proceeds go to then? I mean, that's the only question. The rest of it, this is not relevant. Where does the funding, where do those sale funds?
For those two?
Yeah. How do we state that because it looks like to me that the Pelican watershed would get any proceeds from that, and then it could be gray matter because now is the Pelican watershed get what the sale for the building is.
I would say the Foltz building should go back to where we took the $30,000 to pay for it.
Yeah, it's out of
That's Parks and
the
Rec.
tribal
There we go.
consistency fund, so you can't really put it back in there.
Oh.
So maybe Parks and Rec.
And then I would say the conveyor.
Should we just state all funds going back into Parks and Rec?
Yeah.
That's what my suggestion would be.
Okay.
Okay, let's do that. And then if the Pelican watershed wants the money for their conveyor, then we just subtract everything that costs us. to do it.
that's.
I think if
They've given it to us.
They gave it to us, didn't they?
And we have expense of pulling out. You're talking about the conveyor that was next to the watershed building?
Yes.
Yeah, well,
Mr. Chair, so that's setting up at kind of Highway 59 at our,
It's actually out back of the transfer station, back out on
okay.
the property there. But
So that will be sold for just metal, right? Scrap?
Or I guess if somebody will pay us a little extra for it, we'd take it, but it's not a high value item.
Right.
No.
Let's just put it all back into,
Parks and
and I would eliminate Pelican Watershed District owned. I would eliminate that sentence and just put aquatic weed conveyor previously owned by Pelican Watershed and put it back.
Because we've acquired it just by,
It's been
Yeah.
it's just salvage.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll make motion to approve with that change, with the changes.
Second.
All right, motion by Barry, second by Erica. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
All right, Kyle.
I signed this.
Kyle, these are just stamps, aren't they? Rubber stamps? Motion to.
Should be, yeah.
Yeah, they should
I'm
be.
going to make motions real quick here, unless you have something to add.
We've talked about these a lot.
Yeah.
Motion to approve the final plat.
For both,
We'll
one at a
we'll
time.
start just the.
First, okay, we have a motion by Barry to approve the final plat for number one and a second by Phil. Do we have any further discussion? Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Motion to approve the final plat for Ida Lake Storage.
So we have a motion by Barry for Ida Lake Store and a second by Phil. Do we have any more discussion? Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Motion carries.
Sat here for an hour and
All right, then you have the Sioux Pass.
So just a kind of a normal formality on the WeFest conditional use permit for the Sioux Pass Ranch events. Basically, what the conditional use permit states is that it shall be approved unless there's any changes. Year over year, the changes are very minor. Reviewing it this year, the only change I noticed, even between gate openings and days and all of that, was a reduction in licensed campsites from 6,355 to 4,000. So this year is anticipated to be a little bit smaller. And then this second event is just a one-day event out there. Looks like security is there from 4 to noon, so people should be there no later than midnight, no camping or anything like that. And then in the years past, just obviously looking for a motion to approve both, but just a condition that they enter into all applicable agreements, such as the sheriff. He has a contract with them. Fire department, highway, township, if, I'm not sure, do you have an agreement in the past?
With all applicable
Yeah.
All applicable
agreements in
Yeah.
place.
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
So we're going to approve both of them at one time with applicable agreements. All right, we have a motion by Barry, second by Erica. Do we have any more discussion? Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. I
Motion
think they
carries.
have, in their agreement, they have up to
Yep.
5 events
Yes.
Yep.
that they can do.
Yep.
Yep.
Is that it?
That's it.
All right, anybody else have anything else?
Thank you, Kyle.
We're done, we're adjourned.
Hey, Kyle, just a compliment yesterday, I really think that was a good meeting. I mean,
I do too.
Thank you.
Like that.
Good, it helped a lot.
It was productive.
You got a lot of work ahead of you though.
Had to keep you guys on